Update today for the Buffalo Sabres. Goaltender Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen did return to practice. And Josh Norris, along with Josh Dunn, were both out of their non-contact jerseys. Zach Benson, however, was absent again. And the Sabres Injury Report, it is brought to you by Hamburg Overhead Door. Is your garage door injured? Call the expert at Hamburg Overhead Door to get your door healthy again. Over into the Olympics, the gold medal game between the United States and Canada is currently underway. We are in the third period, and Canada leads that game 1-0. And then some other notes from the games today. Men's speed skater Jordan Stolz gets the silver medal in the 1,500 meter. Stolz already has achieved gold and an Olympic record in both the 1,000 meter and 500 meter. And then U.S. women's curling, they advanced to the semifinal after taking down Switzerland earlier this morning. The U.S. is going to face Switzerland again tomorrow morning. And your current medal count does see Norway still in the lead. They have 34 total medals. Italy in second with 26. The U.S. just behind with 25. And then Norway has the overall gold medals, won in first with 16. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet with you for the extra mile since 1935. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550, now on 107.7, 104.7 WGR FM.
Mike Schopp.
Hey, put a little. I never get this line out the first time. It's not even good. Hey, put a little bit more in there, cowboy.
And the Bulldog.
What's your degree in?
Kicking ass and taking names.
On WGR Sports Radio 550.
Okay. Yes, we have the women's gold medal game on. I would say I am riveted and nervous. And what are you?
I also, I don't know about riveted. Yeah, I'm tense.
You're tense. You want this?
Yeah.
I want this.
I would like to see them beat Canada.
Can I?
The U.S. women.
Maybe this is what I do, like sort of making an excuse here too. I wanted to say this yesterday. It's not just being patriotic, you know, like if that even counts. Rooting for Team USA, does that even count as patriotic? But you know this from me. I always like it in sports when the best team wins. Mm-hmm. When you go through a season and sports is now just all cluttered with all these extra playoff teams that can throw that off. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I think Team USA has, been dominant all through the preseason and these games. It's not that Canada isn't really good or that a team can't win on a given day. This game is really even. They're not really getting outplayed or they're not really getting goalied, say, right?
Yeah, I agree.
It's pretty even.
It is. I mean, shots are 22-21, if I can see that correctly, or 22-20. It's a pretty even game, which has not been the case in most of these USA games. Sometimes the scores have been close. Like the Sweden game earlier this week was 1-0 into the second period, and then they exploded in the final few minutes of the second period, and we're up 5-0 before the frame ended, I think. But that game, the shots were really ridiculous, lopsided towards the USA's favor. That is not the case in this game. And when I was watching, I didn't see much of the second period because I was driving here during the intermission, and I was just kind of really in and out. But the back half of the first period I was watching, I really almost never saw the puck in the Canadian zone.
Yeah, they were getting really handled then.
Yeah, and it wasn't like there were like the American goalie had to stand on her head or anything. It was just the Canada just had the puck down there. That's what it was. So it's a very even game, and I don't know, like is it nerves? Is it tension? Is it the experience of Canada? I don't know, but it's a very different looking game than any game really the USA has played in this tournament so far.
Well, I mean, if you love sports, this is like, if you love this sport, it's just all right now. And I said yesterday about this game that it's just a little bit something unsettling when you've been so good and you're playing a team that knows you so well. We'll see.
And has had the better of you in this spot historically. I mean, this is the first year that is this tournament approach. I'd say mostly since this thing has started, like Canada's had the better of it. But the gap was always closing and it was really competitive. like really close. And then this year it looked like, starting with these exhibitions, one of which you were at here in Buffalo, another one a couple
6-1.
days later or before, I can't remember the order, in Cleveland, they were just all over Canada. And that's how the game earlier in the tournament went when these two teams met. And today is just a very different story. So, I don't know. Let's see if they can figure it out here. They're 13 and change left in the third period, and they're still down 1-0.
We'll let you know.
Keep an eye on it for you.
Were you watching? I'm so flustered by this. I'm just really, really excited about it and nervous. Were you listening to us this morning at all?
A little bit. I had some running around to do. Fred had to go to the doggy doctor.
Uh-oh.
So no, just annual, shots. Just keep them up. Keep up appearances. It's really more than that. Whatever. It's an annual checkup for Fred. So I was out real early, like 7 o'clock hour, 8 o'clock hour. I was running around. So I did hear some of the station this morning.
That's about when I was listening. I didn't fully appreciate how many unrestricted free agents the Bills have. Do you know the number?
Is it 23?
It is.
Yeah, I did hear
23.
I did hear Joe say that. Yeah.
And it was a good conversation they were having about like offense versus defense, and Joe bottom lined it with on defense they're just going to need a lot of players. I mean, volume. And where offense might be more specialized in what they do in free agency and then the draft. But yeah, I looked at that list today. The first place I went looking for it is on Sal's Twitter. And he usually has like a pinned tweet of the roster, but he doesn't right now. So then I went to our lads, and let's just make sure we get all this out and have the conversation so that I can close this, because the pop-ups are just too much.
I know.
But, like Jeremy was talking about their draft picks and how they have 7 picks, no 6s, but 2 7s, and just how many new guys are there going to be here. And it's, he didn't exactly say this, but you can't expect your 7th round picks to contribute, really, but they might help you fill.
Mm-hmm.
And, geez, I mean, on defense, it's just everywhere. UFAs. And on our lads, it's in green. Bosa, Milano, Trey White, Shaq Thompson, Poyer, Hamlin, Daquan Jones, Epinesa, Cam Lewis, Ogunjobi, and so on. I mean, even Darius Slay is listed here. He's their property, right? So he would count on the list of 23. But, I mean, it's just a lot of change coming.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, like, should we worry about that? Is that good or bad or neither? What is it that they have to make all these? I mean, some of these guys, a few of them might come back, but
sure,
not most.
Yeah. I think it is. It's possible that they fell into, especially on defense, I would say, more so than on the offensive side of the ball. They fell into, I'm sure they weren't planning. I mean, they would have known these contract statuses, but I don't think ahead of time they were thinking, well, when we fire Sean McDermott and do whatever we're going to do and maybe overhaul the defensive system, because there's going to be a new guy running the defense without McDermott here anymore, then we'll be poised to pounce and like replace guys with guys that are more specific scheme fits to what the new guy, as it turns out, is Jim Leonard, wants to do. So on one hand, I think that's definitely a glass half full, because if you had guys under contract who don't fit, you'd be kind of stuck. But if you are in a situation where you have some flexibility now, then, I think you can manage to turn some things over and maybe, not have as much of a problem being stuck with guys that you don't really want to have be a part of the program anymore. So I think on one hand that works, but, on the other, I would much rather also that they had an established killer at like edge rusher or something, like that they had some piece that were like, well, of course, that guy.
You build around him.
Yeah. Right? Like that guy's not scheme specific. That guy's just a witch, and any team would want him, whatever defense they're playing, because he's going to just, cave the tackle's skull in.
There is just not a lot there. If they're going to lose some or all of those names I mentioned, and maybe also Taylor Rapp, right? I mean, he's not in green because he's under contract, but he's a cap casualty candidate.
Yep.
That was pretty good. Taron Johnson is older. What's Bernard going into next year? There are even more players here that are kind of iffy. I don't know. I think it's just interesting that there's so much of that as was brought to light this morning, and I'm sure a lot of people already realized that. But they're going to have a very different team on defense next year. Offensively, I mean, is the point also right? Just like a couple of linemen and a wide receiver or two, potentially a different backup quarterback.
I think two receivers for sure are going to be new. My preference would be a veteran and a draft pick. We'll see how they go through it. But I think two are definitely called for, unless you want to comfortably head into the season expecting Keon Coleman to really matter for you at all. And, I think if you want to have him here because Joe Brady wants to stand on the table and stump for him, fine, but you better not just count on him. If you want to have him penciled in as your fifth or sixth guy, okay, fine. But that means you need to front fill more than backfill. You're not looking for street free agents to just fill out the receiver room and maybe you find a new Tyrell Shavers or something. Like, you need guys that are going to play on all three downs in that room, or at least a guy that's going to play on all three downs in that room.
Do you want to bother with Cooks?
I think if they end up on Cooks, it's a terrible sign.
Kind of like that happened this year.
Yeah.
And
right.
he was okay. Did a little bit, but it was the bad sign, we always talk about with that position when your point about Cooks and Hardman.
The last two passes of the year were targeted for Mecole Hardman Jr. and Brandon Cooks, which is insane to me.
And then what's Kincaid? Like, he's going to be on the team.
Yes.
Needs to be healthy. Can't really know whether that's going to happen. Is he also somebody, like, there's a little bit of doubt about him too.
Yeah. Yeah, I think counting on him as a dependable pass catcher is a risky proposition. I think going into another season, however healthy, he will. I'll bet we'll hear a lot about, because we did this past off season. He looks bigger. He listened to them. He put on a little weight because he needs to be more durable. The rigors of the season, maybe a little of that was, style-wise, blocking, like whatever, just become a more imposing physical player. And once the season got rolling and he played some football, it was like in and out. And he's so potent, it seems, when deployed. But I don't think I can count on him as the focal point of my passing offense or anything, because I don't know if he's going to be there week to week. I can't imagine. I know anyone can get hurt. But if you've got a guy who for 2 seasons running now has been on the kind of pitch counts he's been on, I'd be really surprised if internally they're thinking about it any differently than I just said. I think he's awesome, and if he can play more, great. But we got to be really careful there, and that has to impact the rest of your planning when you're trying to figure out who's going to catch passes for you. It has to impact, to me, it connects directly to the other ridiculously highly paid player at his position in Dawson Knox. Like, I think if you wanted to just cut Dawson Knox because of the contract, then you've added a need.
We are getting very close here to there are going to be more new players on the Bills than holdovers. 23 UFAs, most of whom will leave. Knox, Rapp, Samuel. I mean, what's Coleman? Kincaid's here, but maybe Coleman isn't.
I was trying to say Knox isn't going anywhere, so don't count him.
No,
at
okay.
least for me anyway.
No, right.
You can if you want. I mean, I just don't. I think you're going to have to find Dawson Knox if you cut Dawson Knox because of the Kincaid point. Like you'd be creating a hole there. So I think a contract adjustment should be easy enough to do there. I'd be relatively surprised if he's not somewhat cooperative. I mean, could he be sitting in his house right now going, I certainly warrant having the third highest cap hit of tight ends in the league?
Well,
no way.
I was sort of agreeing with you that if you're getting to a point where you have so much change happening to you, there are maybe some ties you break with
I see.
keeping guys around that you might prefer in a vacuum not to, whether that's Knox per se or not. I think he's a pretty good case for that. It's going to be so interesting. Like, really an overhaul. And on defense, I mean, they've kind of sprinkled some of this. Hoyt was supposed to represent this. I don't know. Can you trust him going into next year? He had a torn Achilles off a drug suspension. Like, what's that going to be? And then bringing back Poyer and Trey White and Jordan Phillips, like a little bit diving back into your past. They have the same GM, so maybe they would still be so inclined.
I could see Trey White. I think Trey White played good football for this team down the stretch. And if they want to redo a one-year deal go year to year with him, I'm fine if your starting corners should be, provided they're all healthy, Benford and Maxwell Hairston. And if you want Trey White, kind of like you did last year when Hairston was a rookie, you want to have White as like a, fallback, fail-safe type thing. I think I could listen to that. I don't think he hurt you last year. He's not one of your best players anymore, but I think he filled a role. So, like, that's a guy on this list that I could see coming back.
Okay.
Where else is he going? Maybe.
Well, right, and he now he loves it here or has loved it here, but the coach is different.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much that changes things, if at all. It might not change anything for him, but it certainly could. It seemed like they had a very, very affectionate relationship, McDermott and Trey White.
Well, I mean, it's sinking in as the offseason unfolds, and we're past the Denver loss. We're past McDermott being ousted, and now it's been, about a month? And now my thoughts turn to all of this, right? I mean,
right.
What do the whiteboards look like in the Bills' offices with all these potential changes? And then with the stadium. I mean, a new head coach, half a new roster-ish, and then a new home stadium. It's going to be very different. And Josh Allen. That won't be different.
Right. And James Cook.
Oh, right.
Don't forget. I forgot James Cook yesterday, and
I called you out on it.
Yes, so I'm returning the favor now.
How could I forget? Right. The league's leading rusher is on the Bills.
Yeah,
he literally was. So, and then Brady. What's you think like the smart bet on how well he'll do? We had win totals yesterday, 10.5, nothing new for the Bills to get like credit from the betting markets. That's not the most credit they've ever gotten, but it's up there. No team had a higher win total than the Bills did. There were, I think, 11 teams at that same number. But anyway, like, what's the right feeling to have about him? Is it likelier than not that he'll succeed? Is there any way to know?
I don't know if there's a way to know. I mean, there's pros. He's been at the helm of an offense that has been extremely productive, even without really potent weapons in the passing game. So if you get him some more help there, I could see that being as good as it's been, if not even maybe better. What they end up doing up front is going to have a lot to do with that. If they're inclined to trust their great roster and all this great drafting that Brandon Beane has done, then you should be ready to plug Cedric Van Pran-Granger in at center. You drafted him in the mid-rounds 3 years ago, and he's been here biding his time. You've got a very good player that's hitting free agency at the position that you probably can't afford to pay. That's why you drafted Cedric Van Pran-Granger in the first place. So, okay, Terry Pagula, let's see how great your roster is. If he can't do the job, that's a glaring miss. What's he been doing here studying under Connor McGovern for 2 years? So you should be able to do that. And find your way to a left guard, or maybe pay Edwards. Maybe you can pay one of those two dudes that's a free agent. So like that'll have some impact on what they do, because that line has been so much a strength of their team. And I don't think you can assume with a new center, and maybe that's it in the scenario I'm laying out here, that it's all just going to be seamless. The thing about Brady that really, this is, you've not made this point Exactly. You've made the point that I'm going to lead into my point with numerous times about how when speaking to the media, he gives you every possible answer, right? About what happened there. Well,
me, quarterback, offensive line, defense, play call, everything is covered.
Everything could have been the thing that went wrong, and probably the truth is that a little of everything contribute, whatever, right? He's going to give you every answer. And I wonder, I don't know, you tell me, you check me on this if this is too much of a leap, but is that someone who is in conversation with people, one-to-one, who's just a pleaser? Like he wants you to walk away from your interaction with him with a favorable impression of him, right? So now he's the head coach, and is he capable of being just honest and straight with guys, or in the room privately, is he going to tell you what you want to hear to make you feel good leaving the room and then do something different? That's a question that I have. I think that is a hard thing to do in any business, to be straightforward and blunt about what is your value to the company? What do we think of you? What do I think of you? What do you need to work on? That's a new spot, I think, for him, in charge of an entire football team. And I think that guys really in that field, in football, who are used to coaches telling them what's what, I think they smell the stink of someone who is just telling them what they want to hear a mile away. And I can't know that that's going to be a problem. And again, if I'm making too big of a leap from his news conferences to, because I don't know how he is behind closed doors. I've never been behind closed doors with Joe Brady. I've never been in any doors with Joe Brady. But that for him, the way he's come across publicly, I worry about his command and respect from the players. I think McDermott had that absolutely nailed down. I'm not
all
saying
along.
Yeah, I'm not saying everybody loved him over there, but I think they all felt they knew where they stood. And I'm not sure with a new guy who's new at it, and this point I'm making about how he comes across, if that transfers at all to his interactions with the players, I'd be concerned about that.
Well, that's all very interesting. I don't think, first of all, in terms of the press conferences, I didn't really ever hear anybody else talk about him critically, I just thought it was kind of boring usually and not that informational. And that's a lot of coaches. I also think maybe in his defense that's more of your instinct when you're an assistant than when you're the head coach. Maybe even publicly when he's hosting news conferences as the head coach, he'll maybe tell you a little bit more or something, but maybe not. So I'm not inclined to judge him too negatively for that or make any sort of, connection to how he might be around players. Because even if it isn't perfect, like what you're comparing with McDermott or whatever that is, not even perfect, but just good, that can change too. I mean, I don't know if look, we just spent 15 minutes on how many new guys they're going to have. Like, you can adjust and evolve, and McDermott did. I don't know about within the confines of the team, but publicly he sure did. He mellowed, so it's always, I think, work in progress. But look, I mean, it's mostly about Allen. Brady has Allen. They've worked together. If Allen didn't want this, it probably wouldn't have happened. And so you can take some confidence in that. But I would just want, there's so much that's going to be different, and I'm kind of getting excited for it and getting curious for it, even though it's still so far away. All right, we need to take a break. It is still 1-0 Canada.
We're getting close to pull the goalie time here. There's 2.5 minutes or so left in this game. So we're going to take a break, and I guess I want to say I hope we come back and tell you that there's overtime.
It happened yesterday a couple of times.
It did.
All right. Lines are open for your calls, your gut feeling on Brady and all the change coming to the Bills roster. How do we want to allocate these draft picks, by the way? That's another one. Still plenty of time to work that out. Cody Carpenter, a draft analyst, will be back with us later today. That'll be at 4, and we'll talk some hockey, Olympics, and NHL with Chris Peters later in the day also. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog, lines open for your calls. This is WGR and now 107.7 and 104.7 WGR FM.
then I think it was on the PFF website. I can't tell you how many mock drafts I would do with the first round. I would do hundreds of my own all the time because you want to prepare for every possible scenario in the first couple rounds. And it was just a really quick, efficient way to do it. I would actually write down some scenarios. I'd go back in with the head coach, the player personnel director, the college director, and say, hey, look, all right, this is the situation. How would we handle this? So the last couple of years, I used to use those mock simulators a ton.
Relatable. Tom Telesco, Hamburg native, I think, St. Francis, and most recently with the Raiders. I'm not sure he's there anymore, though. I don't think he is.
I don't think so either. Sorry, I was a little slow on confirming that he got ties to the area because I was checking the rules for overtime in the women's Olympic hockey tournament. And this is how we're telling you that the U.S. did get a goal there, and it came pretty early after they pulled the goalie. And there was a couple of minutes of opportunity to win in regulation, but nonetheless, they will, unlike the men in the gold and bronze medal games in the women's tournament, not that we're that worried about the bronze medal game, 20 minutes, periods, 5-on-5. First clue was that they left the ice. If you're playing 3-on-3, you don't leave the ice for an intermission. You just have at it and expect the game to end relatively quickly. I think there was a 3-on-3 element earlier in this tournament for the women, but now that we're into this, there is no. They're going to play 5-on-5 like the NHL plays in the playoffs. Basically.
Good.
That will not be the case for the men tomorrow or in the gold medal game. There is a 10-minute overtime 3-on-3, which we saw yesterday. This will be the same for the games tomorrow, the semifinals. The gold medal game, 10 minutes, and then there would be a shootout. The gold medal game for the men will be 3-on-3, but they play until somebody scores. There's no time limit, and there's no shootout. So,
what would an over-under be on 3-on-3 USA-Canada gold medal?
Men.
How long? Men.
Right.
How long the overtime takes?
3:10.
Yeah.
I don't know,
3 minutes and 10 seconds?
3 minutes and 10
3
seconds.
hours
3 minutes and 10 seconds. Like the second time McKinnon, McCarr, and McDavid get on the ice. Maybe, I don't know if that's too long. Anyway, but they're having an intermission here, and then they will keep playing 5-on-5, the women here.
I think maybe the bronze medal game went to overtime today. I didn't watch it.
Oh, it did? Okay.
But that would tell you.
That would have been, that's why
unless gold is different.
I said we don't care about the bronze medal game, but I forgot that it would have happened already.
This morning.
But they would have played 5-on-5.
And the last 3 games yesterday in the men's side went to overtime.
Mm-hmm. We're on a roll here. Well, that was.
I kind of wish I didn't care this much.
Yeah, well,
I'm distracted. I'm at work,
yeah.
So that's not good. At least it's sports here, so it's
right. That is helpful.
Maybe I can get away with it a little bit. I mean, people are working real jobs and can't watch all the Olympics that we do. But good for U.S. They deserved it. Hillary Knight, all-time leading scorer now in women's U.S. Olympic history.
Captain America.
She's the player to get it on a tip. That just looks. It's such a little play, but it looks like so hard. The practice, the 10,000 hours that go into that. Right. She's got the stick down between her legs on the ice and deflects it over the goalie's pads, with the goalie's behind her. So great play. All right, well, there's an intermission. 2:04 was left in the game when Knight scored. Yes, of course, to the mock drafts. Said it forever. Teams or anybody in the league that condescends to that, and I think it happens less and less often, is either bad at their job or they're just lying to you. I don't know. Of course you would want that. Like everything else, I think, this is not a big take. I don't want to sound like I'm shouting this, but I think like everything else with sports and with the technology and the thousands of people who are contributing content in these fields, you have to respect it increasingly. It's just more and more sophisticated all the time. You don't have to love everything. If you're an NFL GM, you don't have to love everything about PFF's process. But, we were fooling around with mock draft simulators years ago. And some of them were pretty good. Some of them were less good. And you could make trades for all your draft picks and just trade constantly. And I'm sure I still have pictures in my phone.
What was the name of that?
Firstpick.com.
Firstpick.com.
I'm sure probably an older phone that I probably still have, but pictures of firstpick.com draft hauls that might have been 30 players.
Right, you just kept trading down, right, and acquiring extra picks. And yeah, that was fun, but it got pretty silly.
It's adjacent to it did, and we liked silly. Too.
Yes,
it's adjacent to the point about we had a conversation 2 days ago about GMs and how aware they should be of their reputations. Like listening to the fans and what you don't have to do what the fans are clamoring for, but I think you should want to know what the fan base is saying. And this is a little bit of that, where a GM should want to know what is being predicted. It's good information. And some of these people are no joke. I mean, a lot of them are no joke. They're talking to teams, right? I mean, a couple of these guys are famous for how connected they are in predicting the drafts.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
We talk to Evan Silva all the time, and he's one of those guys, I think, because he's trying to find out what teams are going to do and even can bet it.
I'm actually curious now. Like I've not heard. I heard the clip from Tom Telesco, and I heard it earlier today too, about going through that exercise when you were, in charge of a team or in a team's front office. I wonder like how it exactly works. So I don't think you want to. I wouldn't assume that the scouts have nothing to do at this time of the year, but like there's no games to go watch, right? You've probably written the majority of your reports about the guys you watched play. Now you might be just poring over and fine tuning that and like making sure you haven't missed something and that kind of thing. But I wonder if it's not the scouts, if there's enough people there in the football department in the off season for you to say, okay, you've got teams, you've got the Ravens and the Chargers and the Chiefs. You've got the Commanders and the Cowboys, and maybe go by divisions. I don't know. I need you to like comb through their media and just get a sense of what people think they're going to do. And then we're going to sit down and we're doing this today. We're going to do this next week, and we're going to do this again the week after that. And you don't have to come up with a different answer every time, but I want to have you have to have some idea for me. I don't want you to just mail this in. All right, don't tell me what you think the Chargers should do. Tell me what it sounds like the Chargers might be up to, so we can try to get as close as we can to have this go the way it might actually go on the 23rd of April.
Well, it's absolutely what should happen. I mean, a form of that is when camps start and the Bills, and maybe this is most teams, get all paranoid about what's being reported, because what is the logic? The logic is that somebody is doing that for 31 other teams listening to us talk about, who played what position in practice. So they don't want guys reporting that. And I guess it comes back to whether mock drafts have that kind of credibility. Sal talking about if Sal slipped up and said where somebody was lined up at a training camp practice when the Bills told him not to do that. I mean, that's happened to guys. Then that's one thing. You and I, or even Sal or anybody, guessing at what they want to do with pick 26 is a little different than that. But sure, I think they should want to know how the wind is blowing on, everywhere. Yeah,
and maybe that is just – see, and that's why I mentioned the media piece of it, because I'm not sure. I mean, lots of mock drafters do the exercise. I don't think they all do it with the same objective in mind. Like they've got their rankings, so they believe this player should be in the top 10, this player should be a first rounder, this player should be in the fifth, or whatever, right? And maybe they go through their mock draft that way, and that might not give you the most accurate version. And you're never going to know. Like a guy that is a scout for the Bills is not going to know what's going on necessarily. I mean, maybe he's got friends. I don't know what's going on in some other team's draft meetings. But I think that's why I think you want to not just read whatever Daniel Jeremiah says about the draft necessarily, unless he happens to be someone who's purporting to be plugged in and is giving you a mock draft based on what he's hearing.
Which is the case, I think.
In which case, then, I think you want to probably pay a little more attention to what he's doing, because it might give you some information about how it's going to fall and where, who might be around when you're picking.
I mean, I don't know about you, but I could talk all day on this subject. I love it. That's what we're doing, actually. We're on pace to be talking about this all day.
I guess so.
But I always wonder how much information teams trade with each other on whatever level. How many scouts do the Bills have? 50? What is the number? A couple dozen at least? I mean, all these teams have so many people that all know each other. They all come from the same places. And so, I mean, a scout on the Bills could have a close-ish confidant on maybe almost literally every other team's roster, like somebody that they would trust. But does a hypothetical GM want that never to happen? Is that how it works? Hasn't Brandon Beane talked about not talking about the draft with his own family before? Like, just
Yep.
This one is kept right here.
Right.
But there would be a benefit, just like in a fantasy draft. I know that's me for you, but if you're talking with someone else in the league, what do you think is going to happen? Maybe you're not like close to each other in the draft order, so that's easier. What do you want to do? What do you want to do? I mean, there's got to be some of that, right? Or is that like absolutely not? I know that teams don't want media leaking,
right?
Anything like that, but wouldn't there be a plus to teams talking about it with each other? Sometimes.
To some extent, I think, yeah. And I'd be surprised if to some extent that doesn't happen. Yeah. I mean, I just think people talk. And different kinds of people, some people maybe in those jobs, maybe they don't last very long, at least in the place that they are at the time. Maybe there's people that can't wait to tell you. They want, like, here's what I know. Because sometimes, if you know something nobody else knows or very few other people know, there's a power that comes with that. Like, I know this thing. Like, yeah, you know what? I'm not supposed to tell anybody, but I want to tell you this thing that I found out, right? So it would stand to reason that there's some football scouts that would be that way about the information, hopefully not to the detriment of the organization they're working for or their careers, but to some extent you're going to want to nudge.
What you can't do is lie, because then you lose the contact. But if you're a scout, you don't have to know. I think you might have just said this. Like, you don't have to know what is going to happen.
Right.
You don't have to know what Brandon Beane thinks about us, especially this early in the process. So you could be right, but then it ends up that the Bills go a completely different way because you didn't have the authority to decide.
Mm-hmm.
And, maybe they just changed their mind, whatever it is. Oh, well, the draft. Just going to sit back. I'm literally sitting back in my chair processing that it's still 2 months away and how much I'm going to enjoy that. We'll talk about the draft and certain prospects with one of my a guy I consider, I think you like him too.
Sure, yeah.
Super knowledgeable, Cody Carpenter. He goes to the Senior Bowl and he also is not, and I mean this as a compliment, not conventional when it comes to player takes. I know a couple of times we've talked to him and he's like, sort of a softball lead into a question about a player. He's like, nope, that's not
right.
That's not how I feel. So again, still early, but always interesting to talk to him. That'll be in about 20 minutes. Women's hockey gold medal game is going to overtime 1-1, and they're still in the third intermission. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog, thanks for being with us. 803-0550 is our number. This is WGR and 107.7 and 104.7 WGR FM. in overtime, and it is 3-on-3.
Yeah, my apologies. Google lied to me.
They're 3 minutes in.
Google lied to me, so I lied to all of you.
Face off in the Canadian end, 1-1 in overtime, 3-on-3. How often do the women ever play 3-on-3? Do they have that in the PWHL? I don't know. Well, it might not be long, but
Right.
great stuff. Here's Brian with us. Hi, Brian.
Hey guys, yeah. Number of scouts, unless you're the Bengals who only have 4. But no, when you look down the Bills' depth chart, yeah, man, and you just write in, like you said, Mike, the number of UFAs, you got 23 of them, and it just leaves so many position groups to me that are like bare thin. I mean, to the razor. I mean, obviously wide receiver, you got one dependable player. You got 3 corners on the roster right now that you could actually put on the field. That's counting Teron Johnson. Linebacker is not especially depth. Defensive line is being shuffled. It takes you to safety. There's one player you can put on the field reliably that you feel good about, and that's Bishop, obviously. Offensive line is going to go through a transition. So that right there, if you go those 6 position groups, that leaves you with one swing pick. Quarterback, running back, tight end, or you want to double tap a position group that you already named. So I don't think it's going to be that formulaic, but it does show you that, like, across several positions, I mean, you are down to razor-thin margins where you're going to have to double up in free agency and the draft. And one other point I would say is I've heard a lot of analysts kind of keep going along with this line that, oh, well, the Bills don't really need to use a top 1 or 2 on wide receiver, and I just think you're absolutely nuts. How in the world that's not just a glaring red, poker hot need that we've been talking about obviously forever on the show. You have to go first or second round on that, or you're just never going to get these talents. If you want to keep doing what you've been doing, then keep drafting your 5th and 6th rounders. It doesn't work.
Thanks, Brian. We got to run. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here. Cody Carpenter next. WGR and 107.7 and 104.7 WGR FM.
It was tense, but the U.S. women, they capture gold in a 2-1 overtime win over Canada. Megan Keller with the winner, and before that, to force overtime, Hillary Knight becomes now the most goals and point scorer by an American in the Olympics. The United States, again, captures gold in a 2-1 overtime win over Canada. Some other notes from the Olympics. Men's speed skater Jordan Stolz does get silver today in the 1,500 meter. Stolz already has achieved gold and Olympic records in the 1,000 meter and 500 meter. And then U.S. women's curling, they advanced to the semifinal after taking down Switzerland this morning. The U.S. will face Switzerland again tomorrow morning. And then over to the Buffalo Sabres, another practice today. We did get a bit of a good injury update for them. Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen returned to practice, and Josh Norris, along with Josh Dunn, both were out of their non-contact jerseys. However, Zach Benson was absent again. And the Sabres Injury Report, it is brought to you by Hamburg Overhead Door. Is your garage door injured? Call the experts at Hamburg Overhead Door to get your door healthy again. It's Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet with you for the extra mile since 1935. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550, now on 107.7 and 104.7 WGR FM.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
I don't think Michael's ever done drugs.
It's Mike Schopp.
I don't know if anyone's ever offered him any.
Let's go over some of the symptoms of marijuana use, shall we? You tell me who this sounds like.
It's the Bulldog.
Slow moving, inattentive, dull, constantly snacking, shows a lack of motivation.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog on WGR Sports Radio 550.
Some might find it a little early to call it draft season. Guys, at least get us to the combine. I'll hang up and listen. That's next week anyway.
We're late in the week leading up. We're leading up to the combine. I don't know. I feel like my feet are firmly planted in draft season. That's what I feel like.
Yes, and I'm with you. Now, you and I, however, are not 12 months a year draft season feet are planted guys.
No,
really,
sir.
the season has to end first.
That's why
the football season.
That's why we have phone numbers.
That's why we call our friends, including the man with us now on the Wester Hotline, Cody Carpenter. It is Cody Carpenter season, isn't it, Cody? Come on, this is what a time to be alive.
This is the best time of the season. This is my favorite time of the season because this is draft season. And, a lot of people say, it's the off season. You go out see some friends like, oh, you relaxing? No, we're not relaxing. We're talking about the drafts. We're talking about prospects. And like you said, the combine's 4 days away. We're going to be in Indianapolis, boots on the ground. So I appreciate you guys having me on as always.
Yes, our pleasure. Rosterwatch.com for some of Cody's rankings. You've been around, I think, a lot already in this, off season, going back to the Senior Bowl and more. Tell us a little bit about what you've been doing here on the grind.
Yeah, that's the official launching off point, I guess, of draft season post NFL regular season is the Senior Bowl down in Mobile. A lot of prospects down there we got to get eyes on, and then really got back home and stayed tight. I didn't go to the Shrine Bowl for the first time in 3 years. Happy I didn't do that. I was in Dallas because there's a couple people that got kind of trapped in Dallas during that big weather storm and didn't make it to Mobile. But yeah, came back home and just been grinding through prospects, trying to get all the combine guys done by Monday, so I could feel like I'm in a good place. I'm almost there, but not quite. But we're getting there, and then we'll be at the combine next week, all week, and then we'll come back home, and it'll be pro day season, and then we'll be boots on the ground. I'll go to Clemson, Georgia, South Carolina, kind of stay in my region a little bit, and pro days, and then we're off to the NFL draft in Pittsburgh.
That's it summed up right there.
Like we've already established, you're working on this all year round. How much does you said you didn't go to the Shrine Bowl, but the Senior Bowl, all of it, the combine, the workouts, like how do you feel about the impact that has on players rising and falling and whatever it is? Do you feel like the tape that you watched or the guys that you watched in person in the fall and the winter should weigh more, or do you get swayed by the workouts?
Well, I think that's a little bit of both. You have to it's a lot of repetitions. Like I'd be lying to you if I told you the first time I went to the Senior Bowl, the first time I went to the Combine, that I knew exactly what I was doing, looking for, what to ask, everything, right? And even like this will be my 5th year at the Combine, is my 5th year at the Senior Bowl, and I've been going with Alex Dunlap, who's been going for 15 years with Roster Watch. And you learn new things every year, and I think the biggest part is really just combining everything. It's not about just like, okay, I watched the tape on this guy during the season. He had a bad game against Rutgers. He had a good game against Ohio State. He had a good game here, a bad game here. And putting it all together and finding what a guy does good, what a guy can learn, what a guy can't do, what a role is for that player. And then you kind of combine that experience and that production with the physical traits. How big is he? How fast is he? How strong is he at the Combine? And then you have the personality side, which is really what I enjoy the most out of the Senior Bowl and the most out of the Combine. Is even though it's not like we get to sit down with these players for an hour apiece, it's you get to go up, you get to watch them interact with media members, interact with players on a day-by-day basis, have conversations with them, kind of get an understanding of kind of how they work and what their goals are and different things like that. And you just kind of combine all these things together to kind of create the full picture for you, and not just go, you know what, this guy ran a 4.2, I'm drafting him, because that hasn't exactly worked out for a team in the center of the United States with a really fast wide receiver quite yet. And generally it doesn't work out exactly like that perfectly, So I think it's just about the whole picture, and that's really what I've learned the most, I guess, over the last 5 or 6 years.
Really good. Cody Carpenter, our guest, rosterwatch.com, for his most recent rankings, top 5 by position. We're obsessed over wide receiver here every year this time of year, Cody, and that's partly because a lot of us don't think the Bills have tried hard enough to get better at that position. So we go into this draft and it's more of the same. Pick 26. One player that we've talked about a little bit early for us again is Casey Concepcion, because he's not going to be, probably, maybe this will change, but he's not thought of generally as one of the top 2 or 3 in most of what I've seen. You have him second, though, so you must be a fan.
Yeah, so that's I was listening to you guys for the last half an hour, and I appreciate you said it was this is a compliment, but how I can sometimes have a little bit of a take.
Yes.
And the Concepcion thing is interesting to me because, and part of it, like I said, getting eyes on these guys in person a little bit different than tape. I have my concerns with other guys in the class, namely, I guess, Mekhi Lemon, the guy at USC that won the Blitnikoff Award from USC. And these are 2 players that are very close in type, in that they can both play slot and they play on the outside in college. And the dynamism level of tackle breaking between Mekhi Lemon and Casey Concepcion, I see more outside play from Concepcion. And for those Buffalo fans, my literal comp for Casey Concepcion was none other than Stephon Diggs. It's a guy that fits that mold, and that tree of comps for me is the Zay Flowers, Stephon Diggs, Antonio Brown. That's kind of that tree where it's a guy that's thought of as a slot but has the alpha mentality. The new age alpha is what I call it, whether it's the Malik Neighbors, the Jamar Chase, the Browns, the Antonio Browns, I should say, the Stephon Diggs, that whole realm of these new age guys. And that's a lot of what Concepcion brings to the table, and why I've vaulted him ahead is I'm a little worried about some things. I don't want to talk negative about Mekhi Lemon or anything, but I'm worried about some things with him. The overall profile of a Jordan Tyson, been injured 3 consecutive seasons at Arizona State, transferred out of Colorado to there. Not completely sold on Denzel Boston. So among that top 5 group, Casey Concepcion was the one that kind of stepped up for me so far through the process. And that can, of course, change next week when I go and talk to him in person and watch him run routes in person, and we grade all that stuff at the Combine. But outside of Carnell Tate, I enjoy Casey Concepcion quite a bit. He's just an outstanding acceleration guy that can punish on routes downfield, elite short area footwork, like just everything I look for in a guy that can play both inside and out. And honestly, in my last mock draft, Buffalo is exactly where I put him.
I meant it when I said I meant that as a compliment, by the way, because there are so many guys doing what you do. And it's easy to sort of, who even knows? I mean, I don't mean this negatively toward any specific person, but you can kind of make a list off other people's lists. And boom, here are my rankings. But I know that you're not like that, and that's what I meant.
Of course.
With Cody Carpenter, So it sounds like a little bit of this is your, as you said, softer on maybe not just Lemon.
Well, Tyson's got the injury thing. We've heard that from other people we've talked to here. We've only had probably 3 or 4 of these conversations so far, Cody, but that's come up every time we've gotten to the receivers. Not that we spend a lot of time on the guys that are way up at the top of the rankings like Tyson is, but I wonder, maybe you're suggesting, and maybe this will become a thing once the medicals get looked at the combine and everything, that this is a guy that, as highly rated and productive as he's been, might be a faller when we get to, into the process more.
100%. That's been one of the topics of conversation. And, my buddy Alex Dunlap that works with me at Roster Watch has always coined the phrase, the draft is a flat circle. And that meaning is that generally, we've kind of closed off the beginning of the circle. The beginning of the NFL draft ethos conversations begins in about November, and then by the time you get to post-combine, early March, you're in Never Never Land of these conversations where it's like, oh, this guy is falling to round 2. And then all the way till you get to the draft, the week before you go, the draft is a flat circle, Jordan Tyson's right back up into the top 10. Right. And so that's kind of the thing you have to process through in your mind is that this guy does have a very strong background. His brother plays in the NBA. I think either his brother or a cousin is a coach at a high level in college football. And if you just watch Jordan Tyson, it's not that hard of a sell for you right now. And it's really the injuries are the number one worry. It's not far-fetched to see Justin Jefferson type, Terry McLaurin type play in Jordan Tyson's profile. He's deserving of that top 10, top 12 projection and a draft pick up there by, whether it's the Saints or the Chiefs or the Commanders or whatever. He is deserving of that type of draft capital. But, yeah, the main thing with Tyson really is just, again, year over year, the injuries, and that's it's a big thing. So there's going to be a lot of questions about a couple of these quarterbacks in the medical testing as well, but Tyson's going to be one of them. I'm not too worried about what that looks like. For me, it's just at the wide receiver position especially, it's how can I be less wrong about a player? And that's worked a long ways going back to, one of my favorite classes of the receivers in that conversation was Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave. You knew you were not going to miss drafting Chris Olave. It was not hard. You knew he was going to hit. You knew he was going to be a dependable wide receiver. Now, you can't always predict concussions and stuff. It's whatever. But some of these guys, I feel better about Concepcion. I feel great about Carnell Tate coming out of Ohio State, even though there's questions about, well, he wasn't the number 1. He was a number 2 for multiple years. And Emeka Egbuka this, first-round pick. And Jeremiah Smith that. Maybe the best wide receiver we'll see, minus 10 years, plus 10 years. All right, so there's these different things that create a bunch of these different profiles differently, and all these wide receivers are different in the top 5 here. But, yeah, I really like Jordan Tyson. I think there's just a lot of question marks that come with that injury side of the conversation.
Yep. With Cody Carpenter, the Bills, as you may have heard us talk about also earlier today, Cody, 23 UFAs, plus a few seemingly close to obvious cut candidates based on salary cap stuff, might include Taylor Rapp. A lot of this is on defense. And, you're not just only scouting wide receivers, obviously. How is the edge rusher class? I've heard good things. And how do you sort of see it, the Bills picking late in the first round, again, like they do? How might they best want to allocate their draft capital with different positions in mind?
It's very interesting. I didn't realize how beat the Buffalo defense was from a free agent perspective until I looked at it earlier this week while I'm putting together some of our draft charts. And I think it's interesting. I've always kind of looked at it and I was like, well, Joe Brady's he took over as the head coach now. They're going to for sure, he's going to be pounding the table to correct this thing and draft a Concepcion, or if one of these other guys falls, great. And then I'm like, well, actually, and it's interesting you bring up edge. Edge is phenomenal. Last year there was 13 edges drafted in the first 3 rounds. This year there might be 14. It's a phenomenal edge class, and that's counting Arvell Reese. You can throw him in there as well. Obviously, it's projected to be a top 3 pick from Ohio State, but it's a supreme edge class that will allow you to, use a 2nd or 3rd round pick on an edge and not have to force your hand and maybe potentially reach for a guy like Akeem Mezitor or R. Mason Thomas at the end of the first round when you really don't want to. Interestingly enough, it really just depends on the angle they want to go. I guess I've not fully fledged into each team-by-team breakdown of how I perceive the draft is going to roll out. But one thing that I question about Buffalo is, will Bean continue to press the button at corner? Like, will he make that a point, right? They go out and they I don't know. I'm not sure. Like, bring back Tre'Davious White, bring back Darius Slay last year. It's like, are they going to continue to push this button early in the draft? Because in this class, it's fine at corner at the top. It falls off really quickly, and that worries me about that. I wouldn't be the first direction I would go. I'd be looking at Anthony Hill out of Texas to come in and play linebacker, play that Milano role. I'd be looking. I guess you could potentially look at guard if that's the kind of direction that if a guy like a Caden Proctor falls and becomes a value, people see him as an inside-outside guy. I think he can play left guard very well, especially next to a guy like Dean Dawkins, who's, I wouldn't say overweight, but has had to control his weight through his career.
Dawkins himself said he thought he was overweight in 2025, didn't he?
Well, he said he's coming back later. He's going to try to sort of reinvent himself, I think.
And that's something that Proctor, I think on a podcast about a year ago, said he was about 400 pounds as a sophomore in college, and now I think he's down to 365. I hope he comes into the combine next week in the 350s, but he's a guy that really needs to control his weight too. So it's like, I think that situation could work well, having a veteran right next to him and plugging him in that guard and maybe lighten him up and potentially move out to tackle after Dawkins, moves on in the future. But I think there's a lot of different directions this Buffalo team can go, and I don't think edge is at tippy top just because that there is depth and there is you wait to the third round and you get a true mashed potato guy or meat and potato guy like Jayshawn Barham out of Michigan, who's 6'3", 250, and really just kind of overlooked and fits into that defense very well. I love Joshua Josephs out of Tennessee as well. We're talking about third-round guys with, high motors, not a lot of production, I guess, at the college levels, what you say, but guys that are going to be physically impressive, and you'll see that next week. And they kind of just fit what I've always looked at in this Buffalo defense as, grinders, like guys like Matt Milano, guys like Terrell Bradford, guys like the thing with Anthony Hill, and I'll circle back to this. Anthony Hill will remind a lot of people of Tremaine Edmonds. Sorry, not Tremaine. Tremaine Edmonds. And I think that would be a phenomenal pick. And he's a guy that will go top 40, top 45 out of the University of Texas. But people are getting sour on him, but he's going to go to the combine next week, and he's going to run the low 4.5s at the linebacker position, 6'3", 240 pounds. He can command the defense, wear the green dot, and he's a true leader on the defensive side of the football. So I think there's multiple directions they could go, whether it's receiver, left guard with a Proctor, linebacker with a Hill, but I don't think they should go corner again.
Yeah, I certainly hope they don't. I mean, they have Hairston, hopefully healthy, and Christian Benford, so the need is not as glaring as it was a year ago. Cody, I wanted to ask you a little bit about the edge position, defensive end. I realize that there's differences in how those players are used, but I'm wondering about, like, I have in my head, and this might be trouble, the idea that, like, edge guy, 6'5", 275, can, bend and get around the corner, right? And I think so much now is predicated on how quickly you can win, not just winning your rep, but winning it quickly. And I feel like there's been some guys, Benito maybe comes to mind in Denver, that aren't like the stature, but they're explosive athletes, and they are just going to get through you some way, somehow. And I wonder if you're seeing like a different type of player, highly rated at pass rusher now because of that.
Well, I think you have your different types, right? Obviously, the A.J. Epinesa, Greg Rousseau, Landon Jackson type of being 6'5", 6'6", and 270 is its type. It's your standard strong side defensive end that can kind of hold up. It should be good in the run game. And I guess the tweener in between that and your pure pass rusher like a Joey Bosa at his prime is kind of like that Daniil Hunter, who can play both the run and the pass game at an elite level. But there's definitely a grip, I guess would be the best way to put it, a grip of guys that fit the mold you talk about and that are pure third down, get after it, pin the ears back. And they can play a little bit of run down, but it's not their feature. Like you look at Cassius Howell at A&M, who's 6'2", probably going to be 6'1" and some change, 248, who was a menace in a couple of games last year for Texas A&M. R. Mason Thomas, I mentioned him a second ago from Oklahoma, and these are second and third round category guys for me. R. Mason Thomas reminds me a lot of Hassan Reddick coming out of Temple, a guy that, double-digit sacks multiple times through his career in the NFL, but he's 6'2", 249. The guy I talked about a minute ago, Joshua Joseph's 6'3", 240. These are guys with high motors, but that are smaller, and they don't fit that prototypical strong side defensive end mold that I guess Buffalo fans are especially used to seeing in like a Russo or an Epinesa or even Landon Jackson this last year. So there's a mold, and then there's the tweener, right? I think that mold we're talking about right there was Keldrick Falk this year coming out of Auburn. He's the best strong side defensive end in this class, 6'6", 285. He's a monster. But there's a lot of guys that fit that 6'3", 250, 245 that can really burn off the edge, and that begins at the top with David Bailey out of Texas Tech, who's almost certainly going to be a top 5 pick.
I don't want to burn all of the time we have left on Landon Jackson, but season undone by injury. Before he got hurt, he wasn't even getting a uniform on game days. It seemed like there was going to be a long learning curve. What sort of prospect was he to you last year?
Landon Jackson is an interesting one because I also cover the Texas Longhorns for Orange Bloods, and his younger brother, Lance Jackson, was a 5-star prospect coming out this last year. So we got to talk a little bit to Landon a couple of years ago when he was at Arkansas at the SEC Media Days. And he's first off, great human, but very technical, very intentional, very creative, and a guy that sort of fits that tweener, more of a run defense guy. But when you talk to some of these offensive tackles in the SEC going through, he was a problem. And that's one of the, you talk about going in person to these events and stuff, like learning from not only your eyes or coaches, but talking to an offensive tackle, and you say, who was the most difficult guy you went against this year? And it's like player after player after player goes, Landon Jackson, Arkansas, Landon Jackson, Arkansas, Landon Jackson, Arkansas. So like that type of a guy is obviously a big thing in there, but he added a lot of weight at Arkansas. Very long. I think he had like 34 and some change inch arms. Super long defender that can play in the run game and get after the quarterback. And he actually, I remember the game against Alabama a couple of years ago. He absolutely demolished that offensive line, and just a good, fluid player. I don't think he's ever going to be an all-pro per se, but I think he can definitely fit in kind of like that number 2 strong side defensive end role and occasional passing down work on the opposite side.
Cody, last thing in maybe 2 minutes, if you don't mind, the quarterbacks. So we've got the 101, and then is anybody else day one? Can you see some number of these guys succeeding in the league?
Man, I got done with quarterbacks a couple of days ago, and I really came away with my number one takeaway after Mendoza, who I'm not the biggest fan of, but I think he can be a really solid, especially now with Kubiak in Vegas, a really solid Goff level, Purdy level controller of the game, like a Kirk Cousins level, right? After that, though, there's some projection in Ty Simpson that he needed another year at Alabama. Everybody knows that, so hopefully he can get another year, in Los Angeles or something. But after that, I love Cole Payton of North Dakota State, but after that, it's a bunch of dudes that will just be career 2s, and I mean that respectfully to all of them, whether it's Sawyer Robertson from Baylor, Luke Altmaier from Illinois, Nussmeier from LSU. There's 6-7 dudes that you look at and you go, that dude's going to be in the league for 8 years. He might start 5 games, but he's going to be really good at being a number 2 because he's very intelligent.
Yeah.
He's got a good enough arm. He's a good enough athlete. His pocket presence is at a adequate level, but he's a 4th, 5th round pick. He's a solid football player for most teams that can sit behind these. That's the problem with this entire class. We were let down quite a bit by Drew Aller and Carson Beck and Cade Klubnik from Clemson and a couple of guys that were also supposed to come out this year. But it's a bad class, but it's really deep with guys that will be on rosters in 5 years.
And then in 7, there'll be assistant coaches.
Bingo.
And 9, there'll be offensive coordinators. Cody, it's so great to talk to you again. Thanks for giving us so much of your time, and enjoy what's ahead.
I always appreciate you guys. I'll enjoy it, and I'll hopefully be back on with you guys sometime soon. Have a good one.
Let's do it. All right. Cody Carpenter, rosterwatch.com for his rankings. Okay, we'll take a break here. The medal ceremony is happening. U.S. beats Canada on a spectacular overtime goal, 3-on-3 play by Megan Keller, number 5. This was pretty close to the amount of time you said might be the over-under in the 3-on-3 for the men before we knew there would be 3-on-3 also for the women, right? 3 or 4 minutes in.
It's a hell of
more than 3.
What a great play. It's a little going the other way, but a little Brad May on Ray Bork. In 93, like just jumping around, and the defender overplayed and went past, and she cut back, and the goal wasn't the same, but still, it was. It reminded me of that a little bit, looking in a mirror, like just opposite sides.
After all that, to neatly lift a backhand from in tight.
Over the pad, under the blocker. It's a sneaky, it always looks like a bad goal, but it's a spot that if you can hit it regularly, it's almost always there. Just the way goalies are trained to play, it's just not a spot that you can defend easily.
Yeah, just got to keep the blocker up here.
Right.
Listen to me telling you how goaltending works. I've said enough. I think I've said enough.
We're all good.
We will take a break here and look for your calls after the update. Want to talk draft with us? That would be great. We're in the mood. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here at 803-0550. This is WGR and now 107.7 and 104.7 FM, WGR FM.
The U.S. women hockey win gold over Canada, a 2-1 overtime win for them. Megan Keller with the winner, and Hillary Knight, who scored the goal to force overtime, now has the most goals and points by an American in Winter Olympics history. Some other notes from the games. Men's speed skater Jordan Stolz gets the silver medal in the 1,500 meter. Stolz already has achieved gold and Olympic records in the 1,000 meter and 500 meter. And then U.S. women curling, they advanced to the semifinals after taking down Switzerland this morning. The U.S. is going to face Switzerland again tomorrow morning. Then over to the Sabres. They were back on the ice today for practice. Good injury update for them. Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen did return today. Josh Norris along with Josh Dunn were both out of their non-contact jerseys. However, Zach Benson was absent again. And the Sabres injury report is brought to you by the Hamburg Overhead Door. Is your garage door injured? Call the experts at Hamburg Overhead Door to get your door healthy again. It's Paddock Chevrolet Sports Headlines. Paddock Chevrolet with you for the extra mile since 1935. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550, now on 107.7 and 104.7 WGR FM.
The outlet pass for Keller, a defenseman. Nice move, cuts to the net, score! Megan Keller, the overtime hero, United States, wins gold in the line.
Kenny Albert for NBC. I'm a big Kenny Albert fan. I wish his level would have been a touch higher. Not his enthusiasm, but his just turn him up a tiny bit. I mean, unforgettable moment. That will be a goal that, I mean, that's going to be the advertisement for this program for, I mean,
for sure. Yeah.
Many, many years.
Yep.
Just a tremendous play and game and tournament. And, you know, whatever it's called before that, they came through Buffalo in one of their, I think, 4 exhibition games between U.S. and Canada. I was down right behind the Team Canada bench with my family for that game, and USA blitzed them. And then, you know, my wife knew more about it than I did at the time. The next game in the series might have been in Cleveland. I'm not sure of that.
I believe that's right.
One of the stars of the team is from Cleveland, I think Edwards, if I'm right about that. I hope I am. And so we were watching this game, and I just, you know, I know this much, that Canada usually wins this gold medal. But I just went to a game where U.S. was, like, superior.
Yep.
And that game ended 10-4. USA beat Canada in that game after the game in Buffalo, I think it was, by that score. Like, wow, maybe it's different now.
I know. When you first, I knew you had been at that game, and we knew the result of that Cleveland game, and I was mistaken and thought like maybe Canada didn't have everyone or something, but that was wrong. I dug in and like did some research and looked up game stories and how their coach was even talking, and like that was their team. And the way this tournament began, even it still kind of looked like that. And this game today was a very different game. I mean, credit to Canada. They dug in and found a way to make this game much more competitive than any other game the U.S. women have played maybe all year. I mean, I haven't kept track of their whole itinerary before these games. I know about this game here and then the game in Cleveland.
They won them all.
Around it.
They won them all.
Okay. So, and they were just steamrolling. They hadn't given up a goal. They gave up 1 goal in this tournament before today.
Yeah.
So they went through the whole tournament only giving up 2, which is incredible, and they still needed overtime to win the gold medal game. So credit to Canada for showing up like they did and making it so hard on them. That's a proud bunch of hockey players, obviously a proud hockey country, and they're used to winning this tournament. So they don't always win it. The U.S. did beat them in 98, and then again another year there. I don't remember, maybe 18 even, if I have it right. But Canada's been the dominant team in this tournament year over year. And even World Championships, it's kind of back and forth. But Canada's been, not surprisingly. But it seemed like the U.S. infused more youth and skill into their lineup this cycle. And Canada was still more veteran. And, those veterans dug in and made it hard today. But U.S. found their way.
Tying the game with the net empty and then winning in overtime on a 3-on-3 goal. Really great. Let's go to Dane here. Hi, Dane.
Hi, guys. Thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
I wanted to talk about the possibility of a Brian Thomas Jr. trade. Obviously, his first year, he looked phenomenal, like one of the most explosive receivers in the league. We all know he regressed quite significantly this year. You know, I've heard a number of possible explanations for that. One being a potential wrist injury he was dealing with. Others just being, you know, a loss of confidence, hesitance to catch the ball over the middle of the field. Whatever it may be, if you can identify that, and I don't know if you could if you feel like there's something that you can fix with coaching or whether it be extra rest with his health, I love the idea of the Bills trying to get him primarily because it's cheap. I love it so much more compared to an idea like Alec Pierce or A.J. Brown. He's young, he's cheap, and he's shown he has that potential to be a game-breaking player. You know, I'm also excited by guys like Concepcion after Cody Carpenter talking about him, and who knows, maybe Romeo Dobbs. But as it stands now, Brian Thomas Jr., as far as a trade goes, is, you know, my favorite idea, without a doubt. Just wanted to hear your guys' thoughts on that.
Well, I'm 100% with you. I've been saying it for a few days now, and I really settled in yesterday on it that the cost is. I mean, you're going to pay. It's going to cost you a first-round pick, and maybe more. I don't know. Bill Barnwell was speculating Coleman and a 1 for a 5th, and Brian Thomas Jr. And I don't know if that's exactly right or what, but it's probably in the ballpark. And yes, I think while he's not as established as some other players that are making $25 or $30 million a year, you do have, if you believe in the guy's talent, you can go back to when you scouted him even. It's not that long ago. It's only 2 draft cycles ago now that you were, or 3, excuse me, looking at this player. And the Bills were in the receiver market that year. So I'm sure they did a lot of work on Brian Thomas Jr. I don't know where he rated on their board, but if they liked him and can get him now, I mean, I'm all for it because he's only going into year 3. So that's year 3 of a first-round pick's rookie contract, which means I get year 4 and I've got a 5th-year option. A lot of times you make a trade for an established big-name receiver, even if they've got a contract, he's going to show up and you're going to give him a new one. It's just like a part of the deal. You probably don't pay as much in assets to get that player because of the cost of, you're taking that contract off a team's hands, just why you would expect to pay, I think, a 1 for Brian Thomas Jr. But I like it. I think the cost is great. I mean, and if he smashes in year 1 with you after year 3 of his rookie deal and you want to do a deal with him, okay, fine. But you don't have to. You basically can try him on for a couple of years, and then even the 5th-year option is there if you want it. I think that is pretty good, considering that you're in the situation you are with all these holes to fill on this roster and a very tight salary cap situation. Someone tell me again about how great a job Brandon Beane has done building this team, please. They're in cap jail. They got a bunch of holes. They have very few great difference-making players on the team. But sure, make him president. All right, good. Sounds good to me.
I think maybe the only person doing that is the owner of the team.
Right. Wow. I don't get it. Anyway, I think you gotta make some choices.
I think, not to argue with you on that overall point, but I mean, they have been in win now mode for 5 years. And there are sacrifices when it's harder, I think, to stay there, and you don't, maybe if you're the type of GM scout, there's scouting in your blood, you want youth. You want to put your acumen to the test in the draft. But while they did make many draft picks, and not all have worked out, of course, there's still, that the free agent money at Von Miller and, veterans to take up spots where you're not developing guys that way. Your emphasis is on winning this year, and that's been true for 5 or 6 years. And I wonder if this year is going to be different in his mind for that. I mean, it's not going to be taking a step back per se, but this is how you almost have to get younger is by flushing a lot of the. I mean, most of those UFAs are guys that have been in the league a long time. That's how you get to be a UFA. And Thomas is like almost middling it. I mean, he's 23.
Mm-hmm.
It's close. It is 2 years ago. I mean, it is recent enough where you can ask yourself if you would want to use that pick 26 on him. And, maybe that's pretty close to a good price, depending on what Jacksonville wants to do. I haven't decided yet. I'm open to it. I'm open to this Brian Thomas idea because you have to respect the rookie season he had, but it did go the other way hard in year 2. And I just don't know that I've heard enough complimentary about him for me to want to basically wash that away.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that just from what I leaned on at that, in the draft that year, 2 years ago, I didn't want him because what was it, yards per route run? He had a certain, just like A.D. Mitchell. There were stats that were not good predictively for players going into the NFL. And then he went and had, a great rookie season. And we said, what? Maybe consider that he played at LSU and wasn't neighbors on that team too.
Right.
And maybe we make an exception next time for a guy that also has a great prospect at the same position, on the same team.
Yep.
Well,
yeah, it's not a perfect idea because look, there's going to be risk anywhere, and you might incur more risk, right? If you have the money and you don't have to pay the premium to get the player with the contract, if you can fit it in, that's a more proven player that's got a more proven track record that you should be able to trust and lean on, and you don't have to pay the premium asset. That might be more desirable. I just don't know if they can make that work. If they can make the money work. Because I look, I'm all for getting the most proven guy I can. You said you maybe you can tell. I'm reacting to the word middling it because but that is kind of what it is. I might have even referenced something along those lines here when I was laying out my case for it. It's not going all the way to an established guy. It's not a proven number one. It's a guy that, if you're right, can be that for you and at a bargain. And maybe that's too good to be true, But the cost of acquiring them is going to cost you what? A starting safety or a starting guard or a starting edge player that you also need. So there's all kinds of ways to do it, But the money being what it is with Thomas Jr., I find appealing because I suspect that it would be appealing to the Bills.
Thanks for the call, Dane. It's a thought-provoking idea. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here, 803-0550. If you want to jump in, this is WGR and 107.7 and 104.7 WGR FM. Bulldog, some sad news in the last few days in sports. We've lost a couple of prominent sports figures. Doug Moe. Know that name?
Yes, I do.
Doug Moe was the coach of the Nuggets. And he's probably a lot more.
Right, but Doug,
also,
I remember maybe that's the Dan Issel Nuggets. Does that sound
sure.
right? Okay.
80s.
Okay.
Alex English.
Okay.
Let's go. Let's go on the Nuggets. Alex English. Kiki Vandeweghe.
Can I say Issel again?
Issel.
Kiki Vandeweghe is good.
Kiki Vandeweghe.
But I'm
what
done.
a uniform.
I'm done. Yeah.
Doug Moe, when I got into fantasy football and went to Vegas a few times and played in that club, I learned that Doug Moe was like a regular out there for those drafts. He was really into. He loved high stakes fantasy football and would be. I never met him. I don't know if he was still going when I started, but you hear about certain people that you know of from other places that, oh yeah, Doug Moe was here every year for these drafts. They would say.
How about that?
Also, Mike Wagner, who was a Steeler safety on the Steel Curtain teams, died maybe yesterday. And I always liked him in those America's Game documentaries, which are so good. And he's in one of them at least. But Super Bowl 10 against Dallas, he's the guy who, if you know the NFL films things like inside and out, like me, a sicko in that department, he's the guy who intercepts Roger Staubach. You probably hated him because you were watching that game and you loved Roger Staubach.
I hated the Steelers, yeah.
He picked up on something Dallas did on a certain play that worked early in the game, and he sort of changed his I love that stuff, right?
Yeah, me too.
Hyde and Poyer stuff.
Micah Hyde, yeah, telling us a story about how he got Brady that one time was awesome.
Yeah, it was in the end zone.
In the end zone, yeah.
There was a play.
Yep.
Right. So, not a Hall of Famer, Wagner, but he only played for Pittsburgh.
One of the few.
He's the only player on that team who's not in the Hall of Fame.
Not in the Hall of Fame, right.
Yep.
Which makes him special in his own right.
He's unique?
Yeah, all those other guys, you're all in the Hall of Fame. I'm out of here. I'm out of here all by myself.
Let's go to Jim here. Jim, we've got 1 minute. Take it.
Hey, real quick, was watching the game and remembered that there is a Batavia High School graduate who is the team physician for the women's USA hockey team. So just wanted to give a shout out.
Okay.
All right, awesome.
Do you know this person's name? You can say their name if you want.
Oh, yeah, Allison Shirts.
Okay. There's plenty of local ties, and
Haley Skamura has been a part of that program since I knew there was women's hockey on the international stage. I feel like she's been on the team. Nichols School here, family's from Gettsville, so she's been a part of that program forever.
My daughter's a hockey player. She's 14. She's been to see this team play that U.S.-Canada game that we talked about earlier. She's been to the Northtown Center to watch exhibitions involving whether it's PWHL, if it was that then, or national teams. Like she's got 2 Hillary Knight autographs. Like she and her teammates all going out to watch the women, and they've all been like these great role models for the girls. So yeah. Thank you, Jim. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here. We'll be back after sports. This is WGR and 107.7 and 104.7 FM, WGR FM.
For the Buffalo Sabres, a good injury report for them. Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen back to practice, and Josh Norris, along with Josh Dunn, were both out of their non-contact jerseys. However, Zach Benson was absent again. And the Sabres injury report, it is brought to you by Hamburg Overhead Door. Is your garage door injured? Call the experts at Hamburg Overhead Door to get your door healthy again. Over to the Olympics, the U.S. women, they capture gold, a 2-1 overtime win over Canada. Megan Keller with the winner, and Hillary Knight scored the goal to force overtime, and with that goal, she now has the most goals and points by any American in the Olympics. Some other notes from the games, men's speed skater Jordan Stolz does get the silver medal in the 1,500 meter. Stolz already achieved gold and Olympic records in both the 1,000 meter and 500 meter. And then U.S. women curling, they advanced to the semifinals after taking down Switzerland this morning, and they'll play them right again tomorrow morning. Stay tuned for that. And your current medal count does see Norway very much in front with 34, but Italy and the United States are tied for second with 26. Norway, though, still has the most golds with 16. It's Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet with you for the extra mile since 1935. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550, now on 107.7 and 104.7 WGR FM.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
You know, I gotta wonder what kind of working relationship you'd have with Satan.
It's Mike Schopp.
I've often wondered that.
He, they, I don't know what his pronouns are, or their pronoun. Anyway, Satan.
And the Bulldog.
What's the upside of doing well?
Well, maybe they're too busy making everyone else's life hell.
Oh, boy.
And you might just be able to do your own thing if you're partnered with Satan.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
They're too busy, making Scott Norwood miss field goals.
Oh, come on.
On WGR Sports Radio 550.
At least one more comment about the USA women's hockey team and program is I didn't really know anything about him until these Olympics, but the head coach made a great impression on me. He just seemed to have a calmness to him, and I sort of just liked the feeling I got with this guy just from watching on TV. When I went to the game in Buffalo, we sat behind Canada. I didn't really even know who was coaching Team USA.
Yeah.
But I found out, there was that one with Italy.
They were barking at each other.
Yes.
Right near the end of a period, the second period, it was pretty edgy.
And I thought he handled that great too. Like he defended his team and went after one of the officials, like just to point out this is getting out of hand. But in the post-game stuff, he didn't make it worse. He was good.
Yep.
And he was an Amerks coach.
Oh, really?
John Robleski was, I think, with Ralston in Rochester.
Wow. All right.
And then
I didn't know that.
That all got Ralston was in Rochester.
Yes.
Maybe when I might be off by a year or two, but yeah, I think I am. Sorry if it's not Ralston. 13 to 15.
Okay.
This guy was an assistant in Rochester. And he's also been head coach for the men's under-18 national team, won a gold medal as their coach.
Okay.
Too. And watching as much as I could, as it's been on in here since the game, through the game and then after, at one replay is of him. The camera is on him. And I just loved his reaction to the winning goal. Did you see it?
I did not.
You wouldn't necessarily even know that he knew that they'd scored. He's watching it. He might have his arms crossed or something, not like hanging down, whatever. He's just a tall guy standing there watching the play. And it's just a great shot of like the women jump up and start to celebrate and pour over the boards. And he's just there, not even reacting to it at all, but he smiles and then he starts to cry like immediately.
Awesome.
And the assistants come in and there's like a group hug. And when every time they showed him when the players were celebrating the goal, he was in tears. Like everybody cries after a game like this. The losers cry. Everybody's crying. And he just sort of gave off a great impression, I think. They showed his speech before the game, too. All these coaches now have to measure up to Herb Brooks.
Yeah.
And they don't. But it was just sort of calm and smart and, maybe easygoing. I don't know anything about his style as a coach. but I became a fan this week.
I'm glad you mentioned that game with Italy early in the tournament got as nasty as it got, because I liked that. That was, I think, the second period of that game, and the third period was completely calm. And, that can be the players themselves. You got a lot of, Hillary Knight and Skamura and even Keller, who scored the goal. She's 29. She's been in, this might be her third Olympic Games. I know she was in 18 and 22. But I think that's it. So still, veterans that have been around. But when a team is, you're getting taken advantage of, maybe physically, and it's getting nasty, I think it's a good sign for the coach if they don't react to that. It is like, we're the better team. We're going to come out here in the third period and just let's just play hockey and keep going. We don't need anybody doing anything stupid. And I would credit him not knowing what went on in the room, but I'd want to give him credit not knowing for sure that, he sort of reeled them in if they needed reeling in.
That's good.
Which would be hard to do.
That's good. I mean, that probably is a coaching touch that's required there. Well, what a cool thing. And to everybody who's sort of connected with that program that saw them play in Buffalo or anywhere else, feels like everybody on this side of the border won by this result.
Yeah, I think so.
Canada's won enough. And it was a great game. I thought of speaking of games.
Oh, boy.
I thought of a game last night that might be fun. I didn't do what I meant to, which is sort of make a list, but I think I can wing it.
Okay. The
game is called Will This Quarterback Ever Start Another NFL Game?
Ooh, I like this game already. I mean, you've got me at hello.
Right?
Yep.
It's a wordy title.
It is.
I'm your host, Howard Stern. It's a wordy title. The title needs work. Will this quarterback ever start another NFL game? Talking to Cody Carpenter, this kind of fits with something he said when we asked him about the quarterbacks in the draft. And he said after Mendoza, like a whole bunch of guys who are going to be backups, probably.
Right. Play in the league for 8 to 10 years, but start 5 games. I think is kind of what he said. Right.
However, they're not adding roster spots because somebody's getting weeded out. If whoever the UConn quarterback is good enough to get a roster spot somewhere, which maybe he is, somebody's got to go.
Yeah, I suppose that's right.
Who has to go? Zach Wilson.
Can I ask a question before we start officially start the game?
I guess that's fair.
Start another game. Does this mean be a starter or just, it's December and we're cooked and you're here and we've got insurance reasons to not play our guy, or we've got whatever. There's some, because more and more, you mentioned, right, 62 different guys started games
62.
This year. Yep. Right? Those all weren't guys you were seeing, hey, let's see if we got anything. They were just...
Some were even, I hope this guy doesn't got anything.
I hope he's terrible. He's got nothing. I hope he's got, he affects us negatively.
Yeah.
Because we don't want to win.
Brady
right?
Cook.
So you've got that more and more. So I don't know. I might be asking a question that's hard to answer.
I mean, this is good, though. We're flushing it out. Not only does the title need work, the rules are not clear.
Right.
And so, yes, probably... And Zach Wilson was not one of the 62 even, by the way. He did not start a game.
Right.
He played in a few, but he did not start one. Maybe the stat was actually who appeared. I don't know. I forget. Either way, almost everybody on that list is probably more likely than not to start a game again someday because of what you said.
Right.
I mean, Phillip Rivers started games in the NFL this year.
That's right.
If I had asked you him last year, it would have been
oh my
joke.
God. Yeah, he's 43 years old. He was 44 when he played this year. Yeah, we would have been like, that's insane. Of course not. He's been retired. He's been retired already. No.
Why would you even mention him?
Right.
So, yeah, I guess. But I still want to say some of these guys will not be on rosters.
Yeah, right. That's like out of the league even is maybe maybe a better way to phrase it. I mean, I don't want to change the name of the game we haven't even started playing yet that you thought.
Well, we do think it needs changing,
but maybe it does. And yeah, like Zach Wilson in the league. I don't know. I like just start. It doesn't matter if he's the starter. Start a game. That means he's in the league. you're in the league at this point. You got a chance to start. 62 guys or played. We don't know if it was start. Anyway.
I think it was start.
I think so, too. I don't think it
was Davis who
it
had
would have
this.
been as sort of startling a number as it were if it weren't for starts.
I get it.
So, yeah, I didn't even realize what I'd done there. Go figure. All right, no, so Zach Wilson. Yes, Zach Wilson will start. Zach Wilson's in the league. And even though he didn't start this year, when an all-time high number of guys played, he'll be on a team, and someone even at some point may feel like, well, it's been long enough. He's learned, maybe he can be Geno Smith or Sam Darnold or something. Like somebody.
That's going to be insufferable.
I know, but right? It's going to be, yes, I agree.
Everybody's going to be Darnold now.
Right.
Everybody on the bad list is going to be Darnold
So
now.
I think he's still young enough. There's toolsy stuff there. I'll bet somebody even tries to let's see if he can play.
How about this then as sort of the line to draw? If he's a team's number 2, maybe the odds are pretty good that he does start. If he's number 3, they're not.
Right.
So will the guys I want to mention be number 2s? Will they be 2s in the NFL next year? And what would you say to that question about Zach Wilson? I think I would say no. But he's only 26.
Right.
Close, maybe? He also is a UFA.
I do think it's really close. I'll
say yes.
Yeah, I think he will be a team's number 2. I really do. I think there's a skill set there that you could do worse than. I think if you're trying to find a guy to be your backup quarterback.
Oh, put that on the poster.
I don't think he's an idea for a contending team necessarily, but a team that's sort of starting over or has an unproven young guy, let's put him behind this guy, and if he has to play, maybe we get lucky. Like, that's the scenario I think I would paint for Zach Wilson. If I'm a good team, I want someone who I know, like Mitch. See, I was going to say, maybe he's Mitch Trubisky, but Trubisky won games. He had a better career in Chicago. He washed out all the same, but he had a better career than Zach Wilson has had.
Trubisky started playoff games, plural.
Right. So there's a certain level of trust and competence that you believe you're getting when you sign him. Zach Wilson's not at that level yet, so the Bills don't go sign Zach Wilson.
Okay.
Right. The Ravens don't go sign Zach Wilson. But, could he end up back in Miami? Or, I don't know, it'd be weird if he ended up back on the Jets. But there's lots of places where teams are – he could go to Tennessee and be Tennessee's backup. Fine.
The Jets are very near the Sabres with the combination of the long drought, which are identical, right? The Jets and the Sabres, and then also watching your guys win somewhere else, right? Like Geno Smith finding a career for the Seahawks after never really given the Jets any reason to think he was going to make it as a good player. That stings. Wow, remember Geno Smith? Yeah, he's good now. Well, he had to leave. And Darnold is that times what? I mean, Darnold is a high first-round pick, and you already had could have had Josh Allen, could have had Lamar Jackson stuff when you're a Jets fan and you're watching Darnold just not get there. And then he goes to 2 or 3 other teams and isn't really any better. So, well, whatever. Maybe it was a Darnold problem, not a Jets problem. And then Minnesota, and then Seattle, and he's a Super Bowl winner. Pretty short list.
He's riding the teacups with Kenneth
Walker. Right. I mean, that's like watching Eichel and O'Reilly win.
It is.
It's just.
Yeah. Did you see? I don't know that Warren Sharp is on a bender on the Jets.
I loved it.
But he today, I think, was the day I saw the list of the quarterbacks and like the transactions that were involved in getting the and it
starts with Geno.
It is so bloody. I mean, it's just incredible.
Just read the names for fun.
A couple of days before that, though, the consecutive losing seasons tweet he had. Jets are on 10 consecutive losing seasons. Like Atlanta and Carolina have 8. Okay, that's bad. And like nobody's got more than 4. The Jets are like lapping the field.
Are you looking at that?
Yes.
Who has 4?
Arizona, Vegas, and Tennessee.
Okay.
The Giants
Bills
have 3.
0.
Bills have 0. Yeah, Bills are on a long list of teams that have 0. That's
all the teams that had winning records this year.
Right. But yeah, I mean, it's Geno, Michael Vick, Taj Boyd, Fitz, Bryce Petty. His name came up the other day in here.
Twice this week.
Christian Hackenberg. Again, same conversation. Josh McCown, Teddy Bridgewater. I skipped Darnold there. Darnold's in there.
Trevor Siemian.
Someone named Luke Falk. I mean, these aren't high. 6th-round pick. I mean, what do you expect? Mike White, Flacco.
Bill.
James Morgan.
Okay.
In the 4th round?
James Morgan.
Who the F is James Morgan? That's a real guy.
He just won bronze in mountaineering.
That was drafted to play quarterback for the New York Jets. I mean, in 2020.
That's just more pain.
It's not like it's 1970. Like 6 years ago, they drafted a guy in the 4th round named James Morgan.
You're not to Al Woodall yet.
I follow sports. I follow the draft. I feel like I've never heard that name. So whatever. By the time you're into, whatever, late, Saturday of the draft, I'm not really paying attention. So that's on me. There's Flacco, right? Who did I skip someone, did you say? Zach Wilson, Chris Streveler, Simeon again. I'm jumping around.
Went back to it.
It's just, wow. It's just ghastly what's going on there.
Yeah. But you know from experience how it's worse when the guy goes elsewhere and actually was better than your guys.
Right.
I think we're almost butting up to like Mark Sanchez. No pun intended. To Mark Sanchez there.
Yeah, that's not that. That's like, what is that, 08 or 09? Is Sanchez, because they win those 2 playoff games
2 years in a row
against New England, and that's 9 and 10, I think.
They won back-to-back years 2 road playoff games,
right?
And they lost to Pittsburgh once, and maybe Indianapolis another time. I forget, but I always remember we had Rex Ryan, and that Rex Ryan had as many road playoff wins as the Bills franchise,
right?
Which is still true.
Yeah.
Right? No. The Bills are at 5 now. Jacksonville.
Right, they won in Jacksonville. Right.
That tie has been broken.
Right. All right. Anyway, I'm going to close up this.
So far, this game is really off the rails. It's only about Zach Wilson so far. And Jets history.
And the Jets' horrible quarterbacks. Yeah, right.
Bridgewater is on this list of free agent. Mm-hmm. And he's also come back out of retirement to be a backup.
That is right. That has happened.
Does Tyrod Taylor start games anymore?
Yes.
Speaking of the Jets, I guess, again.
He's somebody.
They're all former Jets.
He is somebody's number 2. I don't hate him here as the number 2. If Trubisky has a market and doesn't want to just come back to the Bills for whatever they were paying him last year, right? Because somebody's going to give him a look, give him a shot, who wants to pay him, whatever. All right? If he finds something better and wants to go, I don't hate Tyrod Taylor as the Bills' backup quarterback at all. And I think I'm not to compliment my line of thinking here, but I think he's a credible idea for not even a bad team, I think a decent team. I think you can expect a certain level. He's not going to hurt you, right? He's not going to do what Josh Allen does for you, who is. So what do I want? I want somebody who can maybe throw it down the field occasionally, which Taylor throws a beautiful deep ball, even still all these years later. He's athletic still. So you don't have to throw away any of your quarterback stuff, really. I think that could be a fit to me.
37 in August.
I think you could do a lot worse.
Okay.
Backup quarterback wise.
Does Gardner Minshew get another turn anywhere?
Yes.
You think so?
Yep.
Younger, decent enough.
Yep.
Kind of in the same bucket.
Yeah. I think he's a little
the
more
same style.
He's a little more reckless than Taylor, I think. But I'm not sure that the turnover numbers reflect that. I feel like he's a guy that's just going to there were 3 guys there. I thought my guy would come down with it.
A little bit of a Jameis Winston type.
Yeah. He's that's the mustache and the whole Uncle Rico vibe to begin with when he first showed up. Like, I'm gonna throw it over the mountain. But yeah, I think he plays.
What about Winston
as a backup? I mean,
he is not a free agent. Winston
is under contract.
Minshew is
with the Giants.
I guess.
Wow. Well,
the league has had
Wilson is a free agent, right?
Russell Wilson?
Yeah.
Yes.
Maybe the Giants just hang on to Jameis
as Dart's backup.
Yeah.
The league, I was going to say, has had chances to give Jameis Winston another shot, and the league has consistently passed on that idea.
They don't want to do that.
They don't want to do that.
No.
Fantasy, we love him. He does stuff. He started 2 games this year for the Giants and 7 the year before that for Cleveland.
I don't think he's done. I think he continues on the same road he's been on.
Winston is 32.
I don't think anybody's going to go, hey, come on in here and compete for our number 1 job. But, as a backup or even a 3, because he basically was 3 with the Giants this year, wasn't he?
Yes, which was weird. Like, they signed him and then Wilson,
right,
and then drafted Dart. So why did you need... we
2
talked
of
about
guys.
him he could have been traded, I thought, in the summer because they didn't need a third one, it seemed, but he did end up playing a little bit. Trey Lance. How does that come to fruition if he is to start in the NFL? How? He young athlete like he was for the Chargers. He did start a game, I think, week 18 for the Chargers because they threw it.
Yeah.
Or they just didn't try.
Yeah.
Is a better way to put it. Does anybody want to do that?
I like through it. That might be the first guy I'm going to say, you know what, it might be over.
There was Bill's interest reportedly once.
Does anybody think he can play? At this point, I mean, not only do you not know if he can really play at all, he's hardly played, like, in his life. Yeah. Right? COVID, college, there's just nothing there. He might be the biggest mirage in the history of highly drafted quarterbacks because the college experience was there wasn't a lot to lean on, but look at these traits.
Right. Traits.
I don't know, man.
I fell for it.
He could, to me, be a guy that is just... Yeah, no, we couldn't find you a spot this year. Trey, what do you think about the UFL?
The UFL is out there.
Seriously, maybe if
you want to go...
If I were his agent or his family, someone he trusts, I might want to sit down with him over a couple of beverages and just say, dude, I think the thing you need to do rather than try to catch on with some version of the Chargers or the Cowboys or the whoever else you've played for is go to the UFL and kill it. Go have a year in the UFL and show everybody that you can actually play. Like, the UFL is, it's not the NFL. It's not even high level college. Go play there, and if you can't play there, well then maybe it's time to
handshakes.
Consider Federal Express or something, whatever. But if you can, you're gonna get your Trey Lance. Somebody's gonna give you some runway there in that league, and go kill it, and that's your way back. That's what I would tell. That's what I would tell him to do.
This has probably happened. Every quarterback in that league has probably had the same speech.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, everybody in that league.
It's time.
You're auditioning.
Yeah. Right.
How many of them have made it back? I don't know my UFL.
I don't want to say not a one because there's names of guys. I mean, who was this guy with the Jets? I did James Morgan. There's guys on rosters that I'm not familiar with that very well could have been the MVP of that league for all I know. I don't watch it. But I might watch Trey Lance play in it.
You would not.
No, you're right.
No, you're never watching.
Thank you,
Birmingham.
Thank you.
Play St. Louis
for caring enough about me to call me on that.
Saturday.
It was a ridiculous thing to say.
You're never doing it.
Never in a million.
Neither
years.
am I.
No.
I did have a fantasy league.
I am golfing. I don't know what I'm watching Homeland again. I'm not watching the UFL. Anyway, he should go play there. And maybe there are guys that have come through there in our second or third string. Maybe I don't know. Practice squad.
I can't remember names right now, but we did have a UFL fantasy league. Bauk was in it, and that was COVID, so it was like shut down or something. But we all got together for a draft at a brewery, and there was a former Bills training camp receiver that was good. I can't remember names, but
yeah.
I dabbled.
Yeah,
but no idea who these people were. I really didn't have any idea then either.
No.
Mike Schopp and the Bulldog at 803-0550. Well, the game doesn't really have a good name or even make any sense. But
I like the conversation a lot.
Me too. And we've only gotten to like 5 people. So
let's
more.
keep going.
Time for a break first. Lines are open. This is WGR and 107.7 and 104.7 WGR FM.
At the Olympics, it started out with the U.S. women capturing gold in a 2-1 overtime win over Canada. Megan Keller with the winner, and Hillary Knight also now has the most goals and points by an American in the Olympics. And then just about an hour ago, American figure skater Alyssa Liu wins the individual gold. And with this, Liu is the first American woman to win an individual gold in figure skating since 2002. Your current medal count, with just a few days left in the games, does see Norway in front with 34, but the United States is now in second with 27, Italy just behind them with 26. Norway, though, has the most gold medals with 16. And then to the Sabres, back on the practice ice today. Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen did make his return, while Josh Norris along with Josh Dunn were both out of their non-contact jerseys. However, Zach Benson was absent again. Sabres Injury Report is brought to you by Hamburg Overhead Door. Is your garage door injured? Call the experts at Hamburg Overhead Door to get your door healthy again. That's Paddock Chevrolet Sports Headlines. Paddock Chevrolet with you for the extra mile since 1935. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550, now on 107.7 and 104.7 WGR FM.
The dynamism level of tackle breaking between Mekhi Lemon and Casey Concepcion, I see more outside play from Concepcion, and my literal comp for Casey Concepcion was none other than Stephon Diggs. It's a guy that fits that mold, and that tree of comps for me is the Zay Flowers, Stephon Diggs, Antonio Brown. That's kind of that tree where it's a guy that's thought of as a slot but has the new age alpha is what I call it, whether it's the Malik Neighbors, the Jamar Chase, the Antonio Browns, the Stephon Diggs, that whole realm of these new age guys. And that's a lot of what Concepcion brings to the table and why I've vaulted him ahead.
Good conversation earlier today with Cody Carpenter, draft analyst. He knows a lot and threw a lot of names at us, including Casey Concepcion, his second-ranked wide receiver. That's as high as I've seen. And he's an interesting idea for the Bills. Where we started today was, well, me being flustered because I couldn't concentrate because I was into the hockey game.
The hockey game was tense.
But once that we got past that, or I did, it was how, and this was a discussion this morning on the air too, how much the Bills really have to address. And that's different from other years where, one of these years, maybe it was when they picked Elam, they went into it, and I was kind of saying they can really do anything they want. I mean, they didn't need a wide receiver, glaringly then. They didn't need anything. You had Hyde and Poyer maybe in their primes. You had Trey White as well. You had Milano. You had defensive stalwarts that had not started to age out. And the offensive line here has generally been very consistent and good, and so on.
Whatever year they took Bass was a year that was like, put your feet up, I think. Because Elam, they need a guy. Right. They need. So
it was a year before that.
It was like White injury, and is he coming back? And where am I? He wasn't off the team yet, but he was compromised. And so you wanted to have something in case he wasn't going to be ready to go. I think that's what that was, Elam. But maybe before that, whatever year I feel like they took Bass, I think, is a year where it was just like, you got to do what, I don't know, what do you feel like doing? We're just sort of, I'm kind of all set in lots of places. And so anyway, yeah, this year is not, it's not that. And that might be, they're going to have to get a lot right. But it might be better for them that they have as many guys on defense in particular up, considering that for the first time in 9 years, they're going to have a different coach there, a different scheme for the defense. And if they were stuck on guys getting maybe highly paid who don't fit, then you'd maybe be in a little bit of trouble. You'd be trying to fit guys in and just living with it and get dead money and all kinds of stuff. And there'll be some of that anyway. And that's not to assume that the guys that are under contract are great fits for what they want to do on defense either. We don't really know that. It's going to be one of these things we're going to be learning as we go, because their actions will tell us what they think they need, right? How badly do they need linebackers? Well, if they don't draft any, then they must think Terrell Bernard can work in Jim Leonard's defense and Dorian Williams and whomever else. But if they draft one, as early as Friday in round 2 or round 3, then, okay, that's obviously a sign that they know they're going to need help there. And they probably do. Just sitting here today right now, I would say that they probably will do that. But I don't know it. So the flexibility could be a positive, but it's more work you got to do. It's more guys you got to find that are right, whether that's the draft or free agency. They got to fit the scheme. They got to fit the culture. It's just a lot. It is a lot. I mean, it's funny. 2 years ago now, right, is the first talk of the window closing, right? Is that if I got the timing right, I think we've had 2 seasons since we started considering the window closing.
When did Allen throw the 98-yard touchdown pass to Davis? Because that's the game where Jim Nantz freaked out about any suggestion that the Bills window
that long ago.
Closed.
Okay, all right. I knew you were going to be ready with a Nantz comment about the window when I brought up the window closing.
I think that was the game.
Okay, this is.
Who does he talk to?
I don't know.
I think I do.
This, though, is a year you could look at. They might need to build a whole new window.
A new window.
Like,
Window Nation.
Cover up the old window and, cut a new hole in the wall of your house to, make a new window. This is not quite an extension on the house, but, you're creating a new space. More light. I don't know. I'm getting lost here, but they have a lot to do, is the point. That's where we started, and that's exactly where I am right now. And it could be a blessing. It could also be, how much of that can you expect to get right?
Well, going back, that's the 22 season, if I'm right about the game, where Nantz was reacting to some idea that the Bills' window wasn't still open. It's right after 13 seconds.
Okay.
The draft history, so 2020 is, you mentioned Tyler Bass. That's how you remember it. They also drafted Jake Fromm in that draft.
Okay.
And that's before it's after the Houston loss. It's before they won anything big.
All right, so that's not a put-your-feet-up draft.
Well, it was, though, maybe.
Yeah.
Just because they hadn't won playoff games doesn't mean, in my memory anyway, that they didn't have, a complete roster. And they trade for Diggs with their first-round pick that year.
Okay.
So there is no first-round pick, but it's Epinesa. They draft a quarterback, and they draft a kicker with 2 of their 7 picks. Then 21 is probably what I'm thinking of, which is the year after that, and just what do they even really need? All of that. Whatever year it is, doesn't matter. This is not that.
Right.
And I don't even know exactly how they go about filling it out. I mean, they will ultimately be able to do that, but will they draft a linebacker? And if they don't, what does it tell us? You could draft a linebacker in the 7th round, and that probably tells you the same thing as not doing it. The picks, of course, are not all equal. So, you always feel like you got a hit with your first one, maybe your first 2 or 3. And after that, I don't know. Free agency will have to be a lot of it. Actually, we were joking earlier about those firstpick.com memories and simulators, draft simulators that a lot of us had a lot of fun with, and how on that one, which may or may not still be around, it had its flaws. On that one,
we got a lot of mileage out of it, though, that's for sure.
I have old pictures. I wish I had one on this phone. I might. They're just hilarious. And you're talking about guys that have been in the league 8 years now. Some of them that you're mocking to the Bills in the 17 draft or something, whenever that was. But those drafts were sometimes funny for how many times you could trade down and do just as well. It would tell you something like, you have needs, wide receiver, cornerback, guard. And you're looking at a menu or of possible players, but you're able to trade down 2 spots because, this is kind of my philosophy when it comes to the draft is, well, what do I know? I'll trade down 2 spots for an extra body every time. And so you'd have results where it'd be like more than 20 picks. That's what they need this year.
Right.
That's actually what they should do is just trade down 5 times.
If they can find their way to do that, that's what they should do. Yeah,
They'll never say they want to do that, and they'll never do it. Even with the Coleman pick, I think they got spooked. Trading down twice in that first round. That's been my theory on what that was, because I was critical of that. The best thing about trading for the first pick of the second day is that you give yourselves the entire second day to negotiate with teams. And you still had a half a dozen receivers that people were hot for, including Coleman. He was not a reach at that point. But it seems like you should have been able to play around some more, and maybe they just thought, enough already. We did this twice. We're going to get our guy now.
Yeah.
And that guy was Keon Coleman. But, if Bean is comfortable enough in his own skin, and he's got 7 picks, and 2 are in the 7th round anyway. I mean, how many picks does he have that are valuable? 4? 3? Between 3 and 5? He shouldn't expect to get starters out of rounds 4 and 5. Like immediate. He's got to do it another way. He's got to go into free agency and figure out how to make room financially and build a team. Because 23 players are leaving or might be leaving. They're up.
Right.
And, you might be able to keep a couple of those. They probably will. But this is what you and I were both listening to this morning, driving around, and how just much work there is to do. And that's like you said, that's the whole point here, is that's what's different.
Yeah. I want to mention something that is not directly related to this, but I thought of it just now while we were talking, and if I don't say it to you now on the air, I know I'm going to forget. But I stumbled across something last night that I retweeted that I thought was really cool. There's a Saints reporter out there named Nick Underhill.
Yes.
Who I just came across, I'll read you the tweet. I built a cap calculator from the ground up. First app I've ever built, so let me know how it works. Well, if you see bugs, let me know, whatever. I went in and just fiddle around. Not that I really care about the Saints, right? But this thing,
yeah, right.
Like you can, I cut a couple guys and watched the cap change, and it's a really cool, I like, Spot Track and other we talked to Mike Giannitti a couple times a year, Spot Track is his baby. I don't think there's an active function there where you can remove guys and it just, takes the dead money into account and gives you what your cap number is now. That's what this appears to be doing. I cut Alvin Kamara and I saved $476,000 and there's $476,000 more on my cap now. But then there's some more dead money and it was really cool. Really cool idea. I would love it if somebody way smarter than me, like Nick Underhill apparently, would do that for the Bills.
It's only the Saints?
It's only the Saints. He built it for the Saints. I mean, I would imagine
somebody could easily do that.
Or he could just, but
he's a beat writer. I know his name. Evan Silva always is raving about Underhill, and they talk. But yeah, I haven't used it yet, but a lot of people I follow were really excited about it.
I just thought it was so cool to have something that could do that. Because, what do? We look at Spot Track. It says this much dead money. Okay, well, can I stomach that? I don't know, whatever. How much cap space does that leave me with? We're ballparking, whatever, right? This, man, I just think that's a really cool idea. And what do I know? He could build that for all the teams and, retire, I think.
Maybe that's just a button.
I just
upload Buffalo.
That's a really cool idea, man.
Sir, you are a member of the club. I'm a guest of the Underhills. Would you like something? I'd like a Bloody Mary, a steak sandwich, and a steak sandwich, please. And you are in Cabana 6, Cabana 1. You said Underhill. What am I supposed to do? I'm helpless.
No one knows what you're doing.
I'm helpless around anybody who mentions the Underhills.
I know what you're doing only because when no one knows what you're doing, I know what you're doing, which is talking about Fletch.
If you shoot me, you are liable to lose a lot of those humanitarian awards. What a great line.
That line I do know. And not just from you, I don't think.
Hopalong Cassidy killed himself here. Very weird. What do we got? Chris Peters is going to stop by, and that will then stop me from more of this nonsense.
I guess that's a way to look at it.
Mike Schopp and the Bulldog, WGR and 107.7 and 104.7 WGR FM. Curling update. The men's gold medal game is set. Canada and Great Britain. 2 giants, Brad Jacobs and Bruce Mowat from Scotland. 2 of the best, maybe the 2 best skips in the world. Women, thrilling draw to the full 4-foot by Tabitha Peterson this morning to win it over Switzerland. I was so moved by that. It's such a touch sport. And here she is. Make this shot, medal round. Miss it, we're going home. And basically everything I've done professionally was to get to right here. Mm-hmm. And she made it. So USA-Swiss rematch, and then Canada-Sweden, Rachel Homan, and that would be, oh, come on, Mike, Hasselborg. 8:05 tomorrow morning, our time, for those games. My bet
and these are actually 4 medals now?
Well, the losers of those games tomorrow will play for the bronze. The winners will play for gold. Back deck this morning. I look out the window to take the dog out. Sun was up well enough to see, and all the snow is gone. And so I take a step onto the deck, and it's pebbled ice.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I was walking onto a curling sheet.
Yep. I had to take Fred to the vet this morning, and my porch stairs, the walk all the way to I went out to start the car. I had my wife's car. I don't know how to remote start it because my truck is still in the shop. Thanks. It's been 7 days. I appreciate all the cards and letters. And I wanted to make sure the car wasn't going to be iced over. And walking with Fred was harrowing.
Yeah, it was tight there for a while.
Yeah.
Mike Schopp and the Bulldog. Chris Peters next. WGR and 107.7, 104.7 WGR FM.
Today, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen did return to practice, while Josh Norris along with Josh Dunn were both out of their non-contact jerseys. However, Zach Benson was absent again. Sabres Injury Report is brought to you by Hamburg Overhead Door. Is your garage door injured? Call the experts at Hamburg Overhead Door to get your door healthy again. Over to the Olympics, and it was a heck of a day for the USA as the women captured gold with a 2-1 overtime win over Canada in hockey. Megan Keller with the winner, Hillary Knight, scoring the goal to force the game to overtime, and with that now has the most goals and points by an American in the Olympics. And then figure skater Alyssa Liu wins the individual gold, and Liu is the first American woman to win an individual gold in figure skating since 2002. And with that, your current medal count, with just a few days left in the games, sees Norway still in the lead with 34. United States, though, now in second with 27, and Italy just behind them with 26. Norway, though, does still have the most gold medals with 16. It's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet with you for the extra mile since 1935. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550, now on 107.7 and 104.7 WGR FM.
It's Mike Schopp.
We were having a very serious conversation about mayonnaise here.
And the Bulldog.
And don't even talk to me about weed.
On WGR Sports Radio 550.
Are you sitting down?
For now.
The Olympics, right? We've got more half-pipe stuff and hockey tomorrow, big hockey day.
Yeah.
We'll talk to Chris Peters in a moment on the subject. Big curling matches still to come. You know me and my curling fixation, obsession. The Yankees play tomorrow.
Of course they do. All right, sure.
The Yankees and Orioles play tomorrow at 1. How about that?
Yep. It's all happening. I just broke
I mean, you're not, like, shocked to learn that?
No, I no.
February 20th? The Yankees and Orioles play?
Yeah, no,
Come on.
Is it earlier than normal?
It has to be because of the World Baseball Classic.
Oh, okay.
Maybe? Am I wrong about that? I mean, does spring training stop, though? No, it doesn't stop for the World Baseball Classic.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like this is pitchers. I don't know. I feel like this is every year.
Opening day is March 26th for the Orioles.
Is that overseas somewhere, or is it?
It's probably in Brazil or something. Yeah, no. It's not going to be in Brazil.
Okay.
I was just not ready. I didn't know we were there. Anyway, thanks for your patience. Chris Peters with us on the West Her Hotline. Long time, Chris. Welcome back.
Yeah, it's good to be back with you guys. I was shocked that the Yankees are starting tomorrow.
Good.
If it makes you guys feel any better.
It makes me feel better. Not totally in vain that I mentioned it. Good. Did you get caught up as we start with let's start with the Olympics? Did you get caught up in the women's tournament?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I've got a young youth hockey player, a 10U girl in my house, and she's homesick today, which was perfect.
Right.
So we watched the whole thing, and I mean, and I in a past life I worked at USA Hockey, and I've had a chance to see the work that the women put in, and the work that goes into creating a national team, and I'm just really excited for everybody that was there. Former Rochester Americans assistant coach John Robleski's a friend from years back, and to see him, help lead that team, and then to see, women like Hillary Knight and Megan Keller, who have been, through the good, the bad, and the ugly, come through for them in such a big moment. It was a thrilling game to watch, and it's been fascinating to see that rivalry develop, and just it every single time they go for a gold medal, it's going to be a war.
How surprising was the game being, if at all, to you, that the game was as tight as it was? Because we've been talking here, like Mike went to see, he also has a daughter playing, I should let him tell you this, but went to see the Canadian women and the U.S. women play here in Buffalo, and they played other exhibitions, and and then the tournament happened, and the U.S. is just steamrolling everyone, including Canada, and to have it be scoreless as long as it was, and then be down 1-0 so late was a little jarring. Were you surprised by that?
It was jarring, and then you kind of stopped to think about it a little bit more. And one of the big storylines is that USA went with a much younger group, a lot of first-time Olympians, a lot of players that are still in college. And, Canada went with an older group. There's actually about a 4-year difference in the average age between the two teams. And so when you think about it that way, you say, oh, it'd be younger, quicker, that's what they looked like in the first game when they beat them 5-0 in the Olympics. And they did win 8 consecutive games now, including today, over Canada. And so, but what you remember is that, these Canadian women have been in these games before. They have been through this war before. They know how to handle themselves, and they played an almost perfect game today. And in the end, it was a couple of moments that helped the U.S. get through. And as I mentioned, it was actually veteran players that made the biggest plays in the game. So there was nerves for sure in the early stages of that game. USA eventually settled in, and then with the goalie pulled, they end up tying the game and then get that overtime winner. An incredible play by Megan Keller to win it for Team USA and, put her own stamp on this after such a tremendous tournament for herself. So it was awesome to watch, and certainly it was a surprise to see that, they just couldn't get their game established for as long as that happened. But I figured once it got to 3-on-3 that the U.S. speed would be a major factor.
We weren't sure it was going to be 3-on-3.
Yeah.
And it was. And I thought you would know better. You both would. You watch the NHL 3-on-3, and you kind of know exactly what you're going to get. And, maybe there'll be a breakdown, but everybody's backing up and coming back out of the zone and circling again, whatever they're going to do. It looked to me like the women maybe just had that much less experience with the format. And it wasn't as you wouldn't see as many turnovers in an NHL overtime than you got in like the first 2 minutes of the the overtime game today, because it might have been just like that much more different to them. But having said that, what a play on the winning goal, because I kind of think when Keller gets that long pass, she's going to go in and nobody's with her, and she's going to turn around. Because that's what you see all the time.
Right, she's one-on-one. She's probably going to wait for help and hope to hit a pass, and maybe somebody didn't pick up a trailer or that. But instead she went Brad May on Ray Bork. She went off the dribble. Yeah, right.
Yeah, I mean that's a great. Yeah, that is. I didn't really think of it that way, and but I guess with you guys being in Buffalo, it was a Mayday moment there for Megan Keller. But yeah, and that was like a high risk play too, right? And she's not necessarily. She's an offensive. She's produced points throughout her career, plays in the PWHL, is the captain of the Boston Fleet. Like she's been in, big time moments before, but I did not see that coming where she's, doing the drag around the defender and then slipped it just inside. I mean, the margins in that game were so slim because you look at, Canada's goal, it was a very strange hop off the glass. There have been tons of weird bounces in this rink, which we expected would happen with how quickly it had to be put together. Mm-hmm. And then, there was a lot of these little moments, and it just reminds you of how hockey can be when you've got two teams that are so even, and that it sometimes can take, a bounce or a great play, as we saw at the end of the game, to make all the difference. So, I mean, what a great showcase for hockey, what a great showcase for the Olympics, and obviously anytime the U.S. wins a gold medal, often a swell of interest in girls hockey at the youth level comes with it. So a huge benefit for USA Hockey as well.
How much do you think the other countries are still lagging behind? I said it this way to Mike because, we've been following this tournament, obviously, just like you have. And I feel like the Finns and the Swedes and some of the Swiss are maybe at a point where maybe they're where Canada and the U.S. were 8 or 10 years ago now. And if they could play them in a time machine, maybe we'd get really, really tight, competitive games between more than just Canada and the U.S. But Canada and the U.S. just keep getting better too. And I don't know, do you think the game needs like a third or a fourth team at the party a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I'd certainly like to see that. I mean, the Swiss did push Canada in a way that I did not anticipate they would in the semifinal. And so I thought that was a good development overall. But the thing is that, as all of those countries get better, USA and Canada level up. They're the ones that are putting the most money into the development. They're the ones that are putting in the resources. And now with having the PWHL, which I think did level up the play in this tournament, with having a high level of hockey for these women to continue to play at, that helps a lot. There have been some other developments, though. So Sweden played for bronze. They ended up losing to Switzerland today. But Sweden has a national a league where they have for the women in there. They have the SDHL, which is basically all the men's clubs have that. So that's an infrastructure increase in Sweden. So I think that they're going to be coming along. I think Switzerland is going to continue to be a big player. And really, what'll be interesting to see is will college hockey continue to grow, because we've seen many more international players come through U.S. college hockey, which has increased the level of play. So you're almost the U.S. is kind of having to develop the world a little bit in that regard in the NCAA, but I think it's a net benefit for the game.
Well done. Chris Peters, Flow Hockey with us, Mike Schopp and the Bulldog on WGR. Let's get to the men and possibly tracking toward another U.S.-Canada gold medal game, of course, but still one game for each team to win first tomorrow. What's the bigger upset for you tomorrow, Chris, if Canada or the U.S. were to lose?
I would say if the U.S. were to lose, just because Slovakia has far fewer NHL players than any of the teams remaining. And, I think the U.S., it's really interesting how this whole tournament played out, because, Canada is getting the lower seeded team, which is Finland, which I think is a tougher matchup. Mm-hmm. They are missing some key guys. No Alexander Barkov. That's tough. Obviously it was sad to see, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen not be able to be part of this and other things like that. But really, I do think that the Slovak team has, while they have played pretty well, it's a mismatch on paper. So that's always dangerous to think of it that way, mm-hmm. because if the U.S. goes into the game looking ahead to Canada, Slovakia is good enough to sneak up on you. And Juraj Slafkovský has been one of the best players in this tournament. And can he put a team on his back at 22 years old and, or 21 or whatever he is now? And just it'd be amazing if he could. But that's really what it's going to take. It's going to take him. It's going to take Samuel Halabai, who's had a pretty tough year in the AHL, but has always played well internationally. Those are the guys who are going to have to steal the game from the U.S., whereas I think Finland has the capability in terms of the style, the experience, the way that they play, the goaltending, all those different things to potentially give Canada trouble. So I think that'll be interesting to watch. But really, in the end, I think we probably will see the two North American teams prevail here and get the game that everybody's kind of had circled on their calendar since the Four Nations.
And by the way, by the betting lines, you're easily right that the U.S. is almost twice as big of a favorite tomorrow than Canada is.
Chris, you mentioned Halavai, and I read a little bit on him when the tournament started, and he was, I can't remember was their first game in the prelims against Canada?
They played Finland. So
Finland, okay, right, yeah. Mm-hmm. And he was great, and it was like, people were on Twitter quoting his save percentage in the AHL, and then someone came along, and now I'm hoping it wasn't you, because I'm going to feel bad if I don't remember it was you, but somebody said, he's like a .923 save percentage in international play. So this is someone who's elevated when he's gotten on that stage, as opposed to just, going through it in the minors.
Yeah, that was me. Thanks for following. But that was and that is really, we talk a lot about the World Championship. You'll hear it mentioned a lot, and obviously Tage Thompson being on this Olympic team has a lot to do with him going and performing at the World Championship the way that he did. For a lot of these other countries, the World Championship is critical to your inclusion on the Olympic team, and Halavai has been very good at that event for Slovakia over the years. And we're kind of in an interesting era for Slovak hockey, because they had the guys like Hossa and Bondra and all these players in years past. But now that group is long gone, and now you have the Slafkovský, Dvorsky. There's another group, Nemec. There's another group coming here, and they needed that goalie as well. And that seems to be Samuel Halavai. Now, he hasn't had a great year in the AHL, but he's also playing on the last-place team in the league. And also Jesper Wallstedt, who's had a great year in the NHL, was on that team last year and had similarly poor numbers. So, there's sometimes goalies are a product of their environment, but you can see that this is a player that is absolutely dialed in, and what a great experience for him. And now you've got a logjam in net in Minnesota. Is this guy increasing his value to you, and either as a trade chip or a potential replacement for one of your current goalies?
Chris, how do you, just big picture, think this is going for the NHL? having the pros back on the stage, and it's a workable time zone, unlike when they were in Korea or in China. Do you think this is a net win for the league?
I do. I mean, I think there's obviously more concessions they need to try to get from the IOC, which they probably will never get because the IOC is archaic and doesn't like to do things for anybody except for the people that give them billions of dollars. And so, which, I mean, I guess fair, whatever. In terms of, the quality, I mean, like I think about this usually, I don't think it helps the league as much as it helps the players. Like, I don't know if it's going to be a lot more people are fans of going to games. I do think like we saw with TJ Oshie in 2014, he's a different level of star because of what he did at the Olympics. Quinn Hughes is now he's a Norris Trophy winning defenseman that had been playing in Vancouver, and a lot of the country had no idea who he was until the Olympics. And now he's going viral all the time on TikTok, staring into the void because all the people are saying he's seeing ghosts and stuff. But either way, like he is now, like you're bringing more to the forefront. So you're giving these guys a platform to be bigger stars than they already are at the NHL level because the audience is so much larger. So a USA-Canada gold medal game is massive for the league. And I would also venture to say, and not trying to be biased about it, but I do think a U.S. win goes a lot further than another Canada win for growing the sport in the country and growing interest and then these players being followed. But I think you're going to see a lot more Quinn Hughes jerseys out there. I think you're going to see a lot more, people that are getting on board with following hockey. But in the end, I think that the exposure that the Olympics provide is unlike anything you can get, including a Four Nations. This is far bigger than that. And I do think that will be a massive benefit overall for the league.
Chris, do you happen to know, we mentioned how we didn't know the 3-on-3 for the women. Seeing them go to an intermission made me think it wasn't going to be 3-on-3 because usually you just barrel right into that. But again, you could be playing for 20 minutes or longer, I guess. So, you want to give them a chance to take a break. And Google told me it was going to be 5-on-5, and I said that on the air, and then I felt like a jerk because I was wrong. But do you know that, like, who wants it that way? Is it the Olympics? is it the International Ice Hockey Federation? Is it the players themselves because they don't want to be playing 4-period, 5-period marathon games like they do in the NHL playoffs? Like, why is the 3-on-3 there to decide a gold medal?
Yeah, I don't like it any more than anyone else does, but it is an IIHF thing. This actually is There was a time where the gold medal could be decided in a shootout as well, which that is no longer the case. They'll play continuous overtime, 20 minutes at 3-on-3 for the men as well, and that is a relatively new development within the last 2 or 3 years where they've done the 20-minute 3-on-3 overtimes. Back in the World Juniors in 2017, that was a 10-minute overtime or 20-minute overtime, then a shootout. Now they're doing the continuous overtime. So it's not a great way to decide the gold medal. It's about, you want to talk about bounces making all the difference. I mean, that's really right there. It's more of maybe as much of a coin flip as a shootout can be at times. But that is how it will be decided. And I think, there's a couple of reasons they do it that way. Like, you can't have a 5 overtime game when you've got closing ceremonies and you've got players that need to get back to their clubs and you've got all the concern about injuries as it is.
Right.
Many of these tournaments happen in the middle of the season, so they're conscious of that. So that's why it is the way that it is. Does anybody like it that way? No. Is it going to change? Also probably no. So I think it's a tough way to decide a gold medal, but given the constraints and the timing of everything, it's probably the way it will be for the foreseeable future.
Chris, we've got 2 minutes left if you do. What are your thoughts on this Sabres season?
It's honestly, it has been wild to watch. I have, I come to Buffalo an awful lot for combines and everything else, and obviously I'll be back for the draft as well. And, I understand the fan base and how passionate it is. And it has been a roller coaster at times, but I do think that having any amount of positivity in a Buffalo Sabres season is far better than what we've seen over the last however many years. I think there's a corner being turned internally. I do think that that's helpful. Like if there's a culture change in terms of, new management and how things are going to be done, I do think that that's a positive. There are players that you can kind of rally around. Tage Thompson is going to be a guy that I feel, has a chance to come back to a hero's welcome. You think about what the Olympics did for Ryan Miller all those years ago as well. And so, I think that overall it's a positive thing. There's still ways to go. Like, I think there's still quite a bit of work to be done in terms of the long-term structure of the lineup and different things and getting players going. But, I mean, to have seen the run that they went on here and to see, players continue to develop and find their way as NHL players and being given the latitude to do that is good. I think it does take a little more patience, before we see whatever this is going to develop into. But this is a team that absolutely has core pieces that can be built around, and that is a good place to be for any team.
Well done. Really good to talk to you again, Chris. Flowhockey.com. How can we enjoy that site best?
Yeah. Head over to flowhockey.tv. It's a really good place. We've got Rochester Americans games. The AHL's on there. So head over there. There's also we got our YouTube channel and a whole bunch of other stuff. We're even doing live reaction shows after each day at the Olympics too. So it's been a blast to be a part of it. Everything's growing there, and we're just going to continue covering hockey every day and bringing a lot of good stuff to hockey fans.
Flowhockey.tv. Thanks for the fix on that. Good luck to you and your 10U daughter, as long as, she's not playing mine.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys. Great to be with you.
Thank you, Chris. At Chris M. Peters on Bulldog calls it X. I'll just do that. X.
Right.
Like a sicko.
How do you like? I saw someone say this guy's, maybe it was you, and it was him.
Yeah, well,
I mean,
it's a compliment.
Yeah, it was. I think he took it the best way you could.
We talked to Cody Carpenter. We talked about him, and he was listening too. It was kind of a weird day in that way. Always a great chat with Cody talking NFL draft. That's next here on WGR and 107.7 and 104.7 WGR FM.